You'll notice that I'm back home. I'm back in my office. I'm so happy. I know the past couple weeks have been crazy and I haven't been able to be here for you all, but now my life's getting back to normal, back in order. Hello, all my lovelies. Welcome back to another weekly pick a card reading. This week's topic actually was chosen by you all. I posted a poll on my community tab for a few topics, and this one received the highest vote. So get ready for a nice, good therapy session through the tarot with me today. In today's pick a card choice, I'm going to show you like an image, like I typically do, and there are some words on each of the piles. And I want you to choose the word that describes what's feeling most blocked for you at this time, because that's typically why we book a therapy session or seek out a therapist. There's something we just can't quite overcome, can't quite reach. So I want you to tap into your intuition and kind of choose the word that sums that up for you, like why you are wanting this therapy session. What are you trying to aim towards and what's feeling blocked for you? I also have this fun little bowl of words, and I'll pick these throughout your reading. Like I made these myself. It's just a bunch of cut up pieces of paper with words on them. For a while, I was doing like a morning, I need to get back to it, but a morning ritual of pulling 3 out of the bowl. And those would be like my 3 words for the day, things I would try to add more into my life or embody more. So yeah, we're going to use these in the reading as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get to our pile selection. Timestamps will be down below, and I will meet you at your pile or piles. Love you guys.
So as you read the words on each of these 6 piles, I want you to choose the word that summarizes why you are seeking out this tarot therapy session today. Which one most accurately describes what's feeling blocked for you in your life, what you are trying hard to overcome or achieve, but not feeling like you're able to do it. Okay, so tap into your intuition and choose the pile or piles with the words that summarize your need for this reading today. Timestamps will be down below, and I'll see you at your pile.
Hi, Pile One. Welcome to your therapy session through the tarot. I hope you're somewhere comfortable where you can really sit back, relax, be in a quiet, peaceful space or environment. Maybe grab yourself a drink or a snack. That would be the ideal situation for this tarot reading, but I understand sometimes things get hectic and we don't have that option. So if you're here in the midst of the chaos, then kudos to you. Okay, let's take a look at your card topper first, which is communication. Okay, so when I asked you to choose your pile, I wanted you to choose the word that kind of embodied what was feeling blocked for you, what you weren't quite understanding how to grapple with, overcome. So for you all, it's this word, communication. So there may be some tension in some of your relationships, and you're having a hard time kind of balancing out the back and forth of communication. It almost feels like maybe there's some people around you that you feel kind of overpower you in terms of communication. They may intimidate you a little bit, or you may just be like overly in your head about the way things come across, and so then you hold back from saying what needs to be said. Or it could be that you feel like when you do open up and say what you feel is the right thing to say, it gets completely misunderstood. So you're like, oh, okay, what the heck do I do? What angle do I go at this with to get the result that I want? How do I open up my throat chakra, my communicative chakra? So we will take a look more into this as we get through the cards, but as always, I do want to start by rolling the die. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, okay, this is crazy, you guys. So you got Mercury, the planet of communication, in the 3rd house, the house of communication, and it is in Libra, which is an air sign. Air signs are about communication. Okay, so Mercury, communication, definitely. Now, 3rd house can relate to our siblings. It can relate to like travel plans. It can relate to education, more like short-term education, or it can also relate to, oh my gosh, I just pulled a blank. Okay, we'll come back to the third house. There was something else I wanted to say there, but for some reason, Spirit's pushing that aside for now. Okay, Libra is the sign of one-on-one long-term relationships, our committed relationships, partnerships. It often represents marriage because it is a long-term committed relationship, but lots of our relationships are. You know, if you've been best friends with someone for 10 years, that's a Libra sort of relationship. It's very one-on-one. Even the individual relationship we have with our parents is a very one-on-one sort of thing. So there's, in your general environment, because the third house is about like just the direct community that's around us. When it comes to your one-on-one relationships, or one in particular perhaps, there seems to be a blockage going on. You're having a hard time expressing outwardly what's already going on internally. Now, if the moon came up here in the die, the moon is about kind of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what goes on in our head. And we do communicate with ourselves in our own head. But what came up for you was Mercury, and that's more about this external sort of communication, trying to bring what's in the head out towards others in a way that feels right to you. And Libra is the sign of balance, you know, justice, fairness, harmony. Mercury, people who have strong Mercury in their charts are great negotiators. They know how to negotiate for what it is they want. They're great salespeople too. So it feels like this is what you're having a hard time with. It feels like you're being you feel like people are encroaching on your boundaries, or you're not able to successfully say maybe no when you want to, or in the way that you want to. You're feeling like you're getting a lot of unfair deals, and it's rooted in this communication that we've been touching on since the very beginning. So as we get into the cards, we'll see what kind of advice Spirit has for you in terms of finally being able to say what needs to be said, get it done in the way you want it, receive the sort of justice and fairness that you are after, and just feel a sense of balance and harmony in your community, your environment, these relationships. So let's take a look at the interactive cards, which actually this is a deck created by psychologists and used by psychologists. Okay, this woman comes up in almost every reading in which I use these cards, but we've got the rebel here. Okay, she's smoking her cigarette, she's got her mohawk, like she's not the type that wants to conform. She doesn't even want to do things in the nice and polite way. She wants to be very blunt about it. She even kind of wants to come across as a bit intimidating, like, hey, don't mess with me. When people look at this woman, it's like they already kind of know that's not a woman you want to mess with. It's almost like they're not even going to try and test her, because the aura that she has around her, the way she presents herself to the world, basically says, don't F with me. And so the majority of the time, she's not even going to be dealing with these sort of awkward situations, just simply because of the way that she dresses and presents herself, not even based on what she's saying. So this represents an archetype kind of within you that could be pulling your communication a bit out of balance. It's almost been repressed into the shadow self, okay? So it's more subconscious. It's not something you see. And often when things are repressed into the subconscious, they come out in dreams, but they also come out in other people, reflecting this back to us. And that's the universe's way of trying to show you this archetype, make you aware of it so that you can embrace it and use it in the ways that you need to. So it is very likely that the person or the people you are dealing with, you may look at this card and say, yeah, that's them. That's not my, this glass table makes it so hard for me to get these cards up. You might look at this card and say, yeah, that kind of represents the person I'm dealing with or the people, not me at all. But the reality is this is within you. This archetype's within all of us. And it may have, it may be repressed a little bit. And so this is what Spirit's wanting you to deal with, because it's not so much about, what I'm hearing is that there needs to be a change in your identity in a sense, okay? Just like I described with this woman, just because of the way she dresses and carries herself, people do not attempt to really test her boundaries because they already get the message that she's not the person to try and do that with, okay? So it feels like there's something about the way that you carry yourself in general, the way that you interact with others, that does seem to invite people or make people feel welcome to kind of, I don't know, maybe be a bit intimidating with you, push your boundaries. Like maybe they kind of get the idea that, she'll or he, sorry, I hate it when I accidentally do that. It's from the card. She or he will probably not mind. Like they seem pretty easygoing. It won't bother them. I'll just go ahead and ask. I'll just go ahead and see if I can get away with this. Okay. So it has a lot to do with the identity and the aura that you present to the world that kind of puts you in these frustrating situations with others over and over again. And I do see that you're kind of like, yeah, like, why do people treat me this way? Because I feel like you're looking at other people and thinking, okay, well, they don't do that with that person. Why do they do it with me? I don't get it. What am I not communicating to them? Why am I not getting this across to them? So yeah, Spirit's wanting you to start with like these little things. Start crafting an aura and a presence around yourself as someone that is not to be messed with, as someone that will demand justice and fairness, as someone that will say no when they feel things have gone too far, and they're not going to feel guilty about it, especially when they know they're in the right. The rebel in this card isn't even much of a communicator or a talker. This is a person who communicates more through the nonverbal, the way they carry themselves, the clothes that they wear, okay? I feel like you're leaning a bit too much or focusing too much on the verbal communication, and Spirit's wanting you to think more about the non-verbal, because if you're focusing too much on the verbal communication, there could be, you may have come across as very defensive, or you may also like over-explain yourself, or you may, I don't know, it feels like the communication gets lost when it's all verbal. So maybe you're the type that when you get overwhelmed, you want to write a long text to the person, because one-on-one communication in person, it's like it's too much. You get stuck on your words. You feel like they overpower you. So you kind of wait for them to leave and think, okay, I'm going to write this long email, this long text. That way it can get across everything that I'm thinking. And what I'm hearing from Spirit is that is actually causing more issues. Okay, maybe I'll see more as I get into the other cards, but they want you to focus on the nonverbal because things are getting crossed and mixed up in that area of your communication. The nonverbal is not matching the verbal. Okay, so then people feel upset because, for example, let's say someone asks you to do let's say this is about work, okay, and you have coworkers that are kind of abusing your kindness, all right? And so let's say they've asked you to do something like pick up the slack on their job 3 or 4 times in a row. And every single time you want to be polite, so you're like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, I can do that. But inside you're boiling, thinking like, is this going to become an everyday thing now? Like, what the hell? And so then you decide one day to actually, I think I'm going to send them an email and let them know that I don't like that they've been abusing their boundaries with me, asking me to do blah, blah, blah. Now when that person receives the email, they're going to feel, whether or not clearly they're in the wrong if they're doing that to you, but they're almost going to feel blindsided. Like, well, if you had a problem doing it, like, why didn't you just say no when I asked? Like, okay, so you were pissed off at me the whole time, but doing this fake nice thing, and now you're sending me this huge long email about all the thoughts that have been in your head every time I've asked you to do it. Like, okay, you're being fake. You could have just said no when I asked. And even though that's really difficult to do, we feel awkward doing that sometimes. That is true. That is the right way to handle it. Because if you were to, let's say, go to your boss about it, the first thing your boss is going to say is, well, did you say no when they asked you to? And you're probably going to say, well, no, because I wanted to be nice. Okay. And then your boss is going to say something like, okay, well, next time they ask, just say no, don't do it. When really what you're hoping is for your boss to step in and kind of pull this person away from you so you don't have to be put in these awkward situations. But Spirit's trying to help you grow stronger in this area, to be okay with setting those boundaries face-to-face in person, to focus on your aura, your presentation with what you say. Does your nonverbal match what you're feeling inside? Okay, and focusing on communicating successfully in person. And even what I'm hearing from Spirit is, at least for the next few months, you need to set a rule with yourself that all of your communication is going to be in person, not over the phone, not over text, not over email, when it comes to this particular relationship that's kind of causing you concern and worry and stress. So even when that person walks away and you're thinking, okay, I need to send a text, I need to send an email, I'll be able to explain myself better. For the next few months, you need to set a rule where you're not going to allow yourself to do that, where you're going to remind yourself, okay, no, wait, I set a rule. I'm not allowed to do that for the next few months. I'm going to have to find another way to communicate with them. That's really what needs to happen. Okay, so let's look at some of the other cards here. This is from my tarot deck, we have a spiritual growth card of feelings, and it is in the reverse. This is associated with Neptune in Scorpio in the 12th house and the number 12. It says scared or fearful of spirituality, scarred or traumatized from spiritual practice and exploration, living in fear of religion, escaping through drugs or alcohol, childhood traumas, possibly in church, losing faith in humanity, doubting God's unconditional love or the unconditional love of the mother and father archetype outside of us or within us, afraid that more knowledge will just lead to more fear and pain. Okay, so this is something that's, okay, this is interesting. Now I'm seeing your inner child coming out here. Your inner child wants to speak and connect with you. Some of you may have had some dreams or even nightmares recently that involved a child. That was your inner child, okay? Spirit's wanting me to confirm that for those of you in which that is the case. Okay, there was a situation in childhood, or maybe it was just the way that your parents raised you, that it's almost like you learned from a very young age that certain people just can't be communicated with. There's no use. Or that your voice did not matter. Not only your voice, but your thoughts, your feelings, it just didn't matter, okay? So that shut down a lot of potential for growth in this area of your life, where a lot of us, at least if you're in a healthy, normal household, you're getting practice with communication, successful communication, all through those childhood, teenage years, okay? It feels like for you that wasn't the case, okay? So you didn't get a lot of practice with this. In fact, your insecurity with your own communication, with your throat chakra that was blocked off, I do believe led some of you into early marriages with a partner who also didn't allow you to communicate and probably didn't communicate very effectively or very kindly with you. You gravitated subconsciously towards this person because you were like, okay, this is my comfort zone. This is what I'm used to. There was something in you that was like, I don't want to learn how to communicate. I don't want to delve into the traumas of my past. I don't want to try and grow past this. It's almost like it looked scary to you. Kind of like how learning to swim is very, very scary when we're little and we never done it, right? But we know that we have to push past that fear so that we can learn to swim. But there's a lot of people who never get past that fear, okay? They never grow in that area. They never learn to swim. It feels like that's kind of how you handle this communication thing. So you almost subconsciously, your shadow self wanted to be with someone that would allow that to continue, because then that person can be your excuse for, well, I don't have to communicate. They don't care anyways what I have to say. Like, you know what I mean? Very unhealthy, very toxic, yes, but on some deep level, it kept you comfortable, even if it was abusive, okay? I hope this is making sense. A lot of times, just because something is abusive, something is toxic, doesn't mean that on some level, it isn't comfortable with us. Because if we are most familiar with that sort of abuse, there's a sense of ease, okay, on a deep level, of course, that we have with that. It's something we know so well. We probably do think we know how to handle it, how to deal with it. And often the first time we get that shock of true love from someone, of the right kind of treatment we're supposed to receive, and we're used to the abuse, we can almost be turned off by that or icked out or like, I don't know, I just can't get comfy with that. And then we go back to the toxic relationships. Okay, Spirit's wanting you to kind of learn how to swim in this area, and you're gonna have to just jump in head first. That's really the only way you can learn to swim. Like, you've got to get in the water. Doesn't matter how often you practice the breaststroke out on the land. You've got to get in the water to truly learn how to swim. Okay, so this is a huge spiritual phase of growth for you in terms of your throat chakra, your communication. And you need to look at whatever situation you are in with a particular person or people around you. Try and look at it from a spiritual perspective. Try and look at it from the lens of, this is a huge opportunity for growth for me. Okay? Try and push past the ego, the anger, the frustration, the insecurities, the guilt, and look at it like that. This is my spiritual task for the moment. This is my spiritual lesson. What can I do different next time? What am I learning from this? And almost try and get yourself pumped for it. Because even though it's going to be difficult, scary, frustrating, this is an important challenge for you in your life when it comes to communicating. And once you learn this, once you push past this fear, you're going to see how all of the relationships around you suddenly feel very imbalanced, very harmonious, how much more comfortable you feel knowing that you can trust yourself to handle what needs to be done, to say what needs to be said, to get your voice, your opinion, your message across. Okay, let's look at the rest of the tarot cards. All right, we have Ace of Cups, Two of Swords, wow, and the High Priestess. This is Cancer and Pisces energy. Yeah, okay. So this relationship, it's in the reverse. Okay, so yes, there's a relationship. There's a sense of my emotions aren't being taken into account. Emotions are a very intuitive thing. Okay, not everyone is good at picking up on other people's emotions. A lot of people have to hear someone communicate their emotions before they understand what they're feeling. My husband is very, very intuitive, and he's very good at kind of looking at me and knowing something's wrong sometimes when I don't even know something is wrong with myself, because he's very intuitive that way. Whereas I just kind of assume everyone's fine unless someone comes and as soon as someone comes and tells me like I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling upset, then I'm like, oh, okay, what do we need to do? But without that verbal communication, a lot of times I don't know what people are feeling, a lot of the times. And so it feels like, I think a lot of people are like that. And it feels as if you're feeling frustrated about this. Maybe you're a very intuitive person. Maybe that comes so naturally to you to kind of pick up on what people are feeling that when people aren't doing that with you, you feel like you can only assume that they're choosing to ignore that. Like they've got to be seeing this. This has got to be obvious. How do they not know how I'm feeling? They must be doing this on purpose. They must not care. But what I'm seeing in the cards is that actually a lot of the people around you aren't that intuitive when it comes to the emotions. You are going to have to communicate how you're feeling, or they're not going to have any clue. So it's not that what I'm hearing from Spirit is it's not necessarily that they're doing something on purpose, knowing that it's hurting you. I almost get a sense that they think you're a very easygoing person. They think that you're very much like, oh, well, nothing really bothers them. They're kind of good with everything. I don't know why, maybe something about the aura that you give off. So even though they know that they cross more boundaries with you than they would with other people, it's because they feel that the boundary's not even there. They feel like you don't even have a boundary line there. So for them, they don't feel like they're overstepping anything. So you're going to have to communicate what you're feeling to them. That's going to be important, or at least understand that they aren't going to know what I'm feeling unless I tell them. I do see here with the Two of Swords that there is a choice that you're grappling with. It's almost like, okay, I can either say this to them or I can either say that. I can either decide this or I can decide that. And you're having a hard time, like you feel kind of blinded, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And the other message too with this card is you're really trying hard to guard your heart through all of this. You want to be very practical about it. And it almost feels like, well, I don't want to tell them how I'm feeling. That's not important. I don't need to talk about that with them. I want to talk about the more practicalities and basics of this. But what I'm hearing from Spirit is it's going to be really important for you to kindly and with love reveal to this person or to these people around you what truly is going on behind the scenes. Not necessarily the anger, okay, or the hatred if you've got any of that going on. More of the feelings that you had before you got to that place of being really angry with that person. What led you to that? What's really going on in your mind? Why this is too much for you? And I feel that those of you who chose this pile do have a hard time admitting that you can't do it all and you can't be everything for everyone. Feels like you do you have a hard time with that. So you continue to say yes, 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 because something about you feels like a lot of guilt about having to say no, having to say, I can't help. Unless you've got some ridiculously good excuse like, oh, well, I have a doctor appointment that day, so I can't. Sometimes we say no, not because of some appointment or event that's going on, but just because, no, like I'm actually really tired. Sometimes we don't have to be sick to say no. Sometimes it can be, well, I'm actually too tired and I don't want to extend myself that far. I just don't want to do this. That's also okay. We can't, it feels like you really want to push yourself past what you're truly capable of. And then you end up feeling very burnt out. Meanwhile, no one around you understands that that's the case, or at least they don't understand that they're the cause or culprit of that. They may assume that like, oh, well, I guess they're feeling burnt out, but they still keep saying yes, so they must not be that bad. You know, so whereas you're thinking, why can't you read my mind? Like, isn't it obvious to you why I wouldn't want to do this? But to them, it's like, well, no, because you keep saying yes when I ask. Okay, so yeah, wow, this is very overwhelming, you guys. I'm really feeling for you. This is complicated, really complicated. But try and get more vulnerable in the situation. Vulnerability is about admitting when we're feeling weak and admitting when we can't accomplish that thing, or we just don't want to, we're too exhausted, or we need time to ourselves. It's okay to be a little bit selfish at times, to put yourself first. That's a good thing. And even admit, like, the only reason I keep saying yes is because I feel guilty. You know, I want to help, I want to do everything, but yeah, I can't, so I've got to say no. Okay, let's look at some of the other cards here. Let's look at the surrender card. All right, we have surrender to effortlessness. This says stop pushing so hard. The art of living means going with the flow instead of trying to force the river. Yeah, that's a great example, because I do feel that you are trying to walk upstream and you keep telling yourself, no, I'm strong enough. I can walk upstream. Maybe other people aren't capable of doing it, but me, yes, I can walk upstream. I can walk upstream. I can keep pushing. And it comes down to like, well, why? You know, why are you walking upstream? Just for the sake of being busy, just for the sake of feeling like you don't have to let anyone down if you keep agreeing to walk upstream? Like, you could walk downstream, make life a lot easier, a lot more harmonious. It would allow things to flow. Like, you don't need to push yourself hard just for the sake of pushing yourself hard. There really needs to be a purpose for it, and you need to prioritize yourself above all things. Like, why go the harder route when there's an easier option that's going to be more gentle on your mind, your body, your emotions? Like, you've got to look out for yourself just as much as you look out for others. And that does cause a conflict of interest. Because if we're constantly looking out for others, there's not time to look out for ourselves. There needs to be a balance. And a balance means that sometimes when someone asks to be looked out for, you have to say no, because that's going to encroach on your you time, the balance that you're creating between, 50% of the time I'm helping myself, 50% of the time I'm helping others. So it should feel more effortless, okay? Your life should. And right now it feels very like a lot's being juggled. All right, let's look at the Mona Lisa deck. Okay, this is a healing fear card. Fear has been something we've been talking about a lot during this reading, haven't we? And the negative subconscious belief that you have is, if I ignore a problem, it'll go away. Oh my gosh, it so sums up everything we've been talking about. It almost feels like you keep saying yes because you think this will probably be the last time they ask. This will probably be the last time I'm in this situation. So I'll go ahead and give in now. But the reality is, no, it's never the last time until you decide it is, until you take a hold of your power and say, this time's the last time. Okay, I'm not doing it next time. I can't do it anymore. This is the last time I'll do this for you. Okay, so the healthy phrase Spirit wants you to replace that negative one with is, when it comes to a problem that makes me anxious, I approach it and do not avoid it. I have an unlimited resource of courage and spirit within me. Perfect. There's not even anything more I can say about that. All right, so from the Shadows deck, we have the Invisible card. And then from my Healing deck, we have Experience Rebirth. Beautiful. Transformation. Yeah, so this Invisible card goes really well with everything I've been talking about, even with this little archetype here. This person is someone who does not look invisible, right, to anyone at all. Like, how is anyone going to not notice this woman? She's so out there. She's so like, I am who I am, F you if you don't like it type of energy. But this has been repressed into the shadow part of you. And so I do feel like you grapple with feeling invisible. Like it feels like no one's really thinking about me. No one thinks about the results of their actions against me, how it makes me feel. Like no one wants to empathize with me. No one wants to respect me. Like almost you feel frustrated with like, why do I have to fight to be respected? Why can't there be just genuinely good and nice people out there who just respect people without having to be asked? Like what's happened with society today? So I see this within you, that you're feeling very invisible, very overlooked, and very much like, I guess I don't matter to people. And I do understand that. I get that, absolutely. but Spirit's almost trying to bring things to a head for you because they do want you to transform the way that you communicate. And they know that you will keep putting it off. You will keep ignoring this problem, believing it will go away if things don't feel as intense as they've been feeling for you lately. They need to make it feel intense. They need you to get to a point where you feel absolutely invisible because they are hoping that that's the point where you are going to say, enough is enough. At this point, I'd rather be scared out of my mind, but headed in a new direction than to keep feeling this way. Okay, so that experience rebirth card is kind of talking about the same thing. And there's even a baby on the card, your inner child, which I feel has a huge part in all of this as well. It's time to train up that inner child in their communication. Remind that inner child that their voice does matter. Their thoughts do matter. How they're feeling does matter. They should have somewhat of a say and an input in their lives. Of course, it's the parents that ultimately make the decisions, but good parents want to think about, I wonder how my kid's going to deal with this decision. I wonder how that made them feel the way I spoke to them. Maybe I should apologize. Maybe I should explain kind of why I did what I did. Okay, that's what a good parent does. I don't feel like you had that growing up. So it's time to give that back to your own inner child. Remind it that it does matter, that it does have a voice. Okay, let's take a look at some of the words here that want to come out of my blue bowl for you. I'm going to try and do 3. Yeah, we've got 3. Let's see what we got. All right, we have grounded, patient, and serious. Grounded, patient, and serious. So these are words that Spirit's wanting you to focus on embodying. This is going to help you with your communication. You need to speak in a grounded way. That means not traveling off into what ifs. When you're talking about what you're frustrated about, it can't be, well, I'm frustrated because if this keeps happening, eventually you could end up doing this and you could end up doing that going into the future or even going back into the past. Well, I'm frustrated because, 10 years ago you did this and it was the similar thing and there's a pattern and blah, blah, blah. Like trying to connect the dots from the past into now or where it could lead. Spirit wants you to focus on being very grounded in your communication, only talking about the situation at hand. Do not allow yourself to go into theories about the future or talk about similar situations in the past because you feel like that will help solidify or strengthen your argument. No, stay in the now. What you're upset about right now, what happened that upset you right now, and that's it. Spirit's also wanting you to embody more patience with your communication. This is a learning experience for you, okay? You have to be patient with yourself. And it's also important to understand that just because we communicate effectively and do it the right way still doesn't mean we're going to get the results of what we're after with the other person. That other person has free will. And even if we do everything the right way, they could still choose to look at it through an ugly perspective, a distorted lens, take it the wrong way, or just simply not be happy with what's being said. If they've gotten used to you always doing this or that for them, then of course they're not going to be happy when you say, like, I've got to set a boundary, I can't do this anymore for you. Of course they're not going to be happy. They're going to probably feel kind of bummed out, like, well, dang. They may decide to, they may decide to call you selfish or whatever, but you have to be patient in that. Don't try and change their mind. It's not about that. It's about you communicating your truth, staying grounded in it. And then we have serious. That's the last word. I do feel that there is, we talked a lot about how you carry yourself in general makes people assume that you just don't have a lot of boundaries. You don't care about boundaries. Everything's kind of good with you. So I do feel that Spirit's wanting you to work on, kind of embodying a more serious aura within yourself. Maybe setting some boundaries even in, your sense of humor or, the things you even allow your own self to do. It's like people need to take you more seriously. And unfortunately, if you're always going to be kind of a, hey, whatever, everything's good, everything's fun, let me make some, funny jokes and do some tricks for everyone and do some shocking stuff. And it's okay to act a little bit, immature. You know what I mean? If you are that type of person, which is fine, a lot of people live a very happy life being that way. The reality is people are going to assume that you're the type of person that's okay with whatever, that doesn't mind having boundaries, because that's just what that persona gives off. Okay, so if you want to be a person that never really has to deal with these awkward things, people stepping on your boundaries, then you are going to have to go a more serious route in your demeanor, in your expression. Or you're going to have to get okay with the fact that, you know what, my particular aura, my self-expression does give off a vibe that makes people think they can kind of get away with anything with me. But no problem. I want to still be that way. That makes me happy to be that way. So what do I need to do? Well, I guess I'm going to have to get more comfortable with dealing with boundary setting every time someone does try and encroach. Okay. And, eventually you'll get so kind of used to it that it becomes very second nature, very no big deal. It's not an overwhelming experience. But maintain a seriousness in these difficult conversations. And seriousness for me is very calm, cool, and collected. When someone's flying off the handle in anger, screaming, or even downplaying things, well, I felt this way, but maybe I was wrong to feel that way. Like maybe it's not that big of a deal. I just wanted to let you know. Those two things aren't, I wouldn't describe that as serious. One of them is kind of second guessing themselves or almost kind of meek, and then the other one is like so erratic and off the handle that it comes across as not very serious, but more just explosive and maybe, kind of emotionally immature. Spirit's wanting you to be very serious, very grounded, and very patient. Focus on those three words when you have this next conversation or decide to open up. It's going to help you. Okay, well, this was a long one, right? About the length of a legit therapy session. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And I hope that it helped give you some clarity, okay, when it comes to communication in your life and what's going on around you. And feel free to comment that below if you'd like. Let me know. But I'm going to leave you all here. I love you, and I will see you next week. Bye. Hi, Group 2. Welcome to your tarot therapy session. I hope you're somewhere that's a little bit peaceful, where you can really sit back, relax, and soak in this message. Hopefully you're in some clothes that are somewhat comfortable, maybe have a drink or a snack nearby. I know that's not going to be possible for all of you, so if you are in the midst of a very chaotic environment and still here showing up to this reading, I just want to say kudos to you. I get it. I've been there before. But okay, let's start by taking a look at the card topper that you all gravitated towards, which is the word authenticity. And so this for you was the word that described best, at least, what you were grappling with, what you feel like you can't quite obtain in your life. You feel a blockage there, and that's why you sought out this therapy session. So those of you who gravitated towards this pile may feel like you're struggling with understanding what it means to be authentic. Maybe you've had people kind of calling you fake or untrustworthy or superficial, and you don't quite know how else to be. Or maybe you're like, well, I don't think I'm being fake, or isn't anyone fake at least some of the time? Like, is it really possible to be 100% trustworthy? Aren't there sometimes secrets that have to be shared with others in order to save and help people? I feel like you have the very best of intentions, but yeah, you are struggling with this. For some of you, it could be that you've really changed a lot the past couple of years. You feel like a totally different person inside, and you're thinking, how the hell do I bring out this new person within me to the outside world? Maybe you feel like you're going to lose a lot by doing that, and so it's very scary for you. Maybe some of you are in jobs that do not feel authentic to who you are, but your bills are reliant on them, your household's reliant on them, or it's what has made people proud of you. Same could go in your relationships. I feel like for some of you, there's been a relationship that just doesn't feel right to you anymore, but you almost feel like, well, maybe it's my fault that it doesn't feel right. Some of you may be having kind of secret relationships on the side, like maybe you've had a best friend for many, many years and you're just feeling drained by them. You feel like you've outgrown them, and so now you've got maybe a couple other kind of secret friends that you connect with better, but you're keeping them a secret from your longtime friend because you don't want their feelings to be hurt. So you're thinking, is that bad? Is that wrong for me to do? I mean, I have her best interest in mind, but yeah, it feels like you're feeling kind of stretched like this, and you're kind of wondering when the rubber band's going to just bust. So you're like, I've got to figure out how to infuse this authenticity into my life quickly before the mask comes off and falls off on its own and people feel blindsided by me. Okay, but you do have the best of intentions. I totally get, I went through a similar sort of struggle when I started, well, I was into tarot and astrology for a long time. And I believed in spirituality, reincarnation. Okay, these are all things that for most traditional Christians, they're very opposed to, I guess is the word I'll use for it. And, with my dad being a pastor of a church, raising me in the church, I didn't want to, I kept it a secret, I'll put it that way. I was studying tarot, studying astrology, reading books on spirituality, on reincarnation, feeling like this may be something that he'll have to die never knowing about me because I don't know what he'll think. So I got to a point where I was like, wow, I'm feeling really fake. I'm feeling really inauthentic. At some point, I'm going to have to come clean with this. I'm going to have to tell my dad what I really believe, who I really am. And if he doesn't like that, if he doesn't want to accept it, it'll hurt, but at least I will know that I showed him my true self, that I gave him an opportunity to really decide if he loves me or not, if he approves of me or not. I don't want him approving of the version of me that isn't real. That feels fake. It feels like I'm tricking him. Okay, so I understand this struggle with authenticity, and it's a difficult one. But let's start by rolling the die. Maybe we'll get more context as to where you all are dealing with this in your own lives. All right, we have a Neptune in Pisces in the 10th house. So the 10th house often is about career. It's about our public persona, our public image. So things like social media. There's a lot of people probably that you have on your social media accounts that don't know you on a real personal level, or maybe haven't for many years. So what they know of you is what they see kind of online on your platforms. Career, what type of career are you in? 10th house is ruled by kind of the father as well. So for some of you, this could be bringing up some issues with your own daddy issues, as they like to say. Neptune is a planet of illusion, of fantasy, and Pisces is also a sign that's very good at it's a shapeshifter. Pisces can transform and become whatever people need it to be. A lot of actors actually have Neptune and Pisces in the 10th. This would be kind of something in the chart of maybe a really great actor, because that actor is able to completely become this other person for a role. So it feels like almost what I'm hearing is like, I feel like you have these different personas for different areas of your life. Maybe just to appease people. Maybe for years you were like, well, this is good because I don't want to upset people with my views and beliefs and what I really think and feel or who I really am. Like, it's just easier to kind of pretend that I'm just like them, because that just keeps the relationship more kind of easygoing and stable. But maybe now it's like, these separate people are somehow connecting or interacting, and you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to find out that oh God. I remember being in a situation like this at work years ago when I worked at the bank. I don't like talking politics and religion at work. I just feel like, I don't know, it feels a little too personal to me, but some people don't feel that way. And so I remember I had this woman that I worked with, and we loved going to lunch together. She was actually a lot older than me. I was kind of like a daughter to her because her daughter lived far away, her only child, and I was the same age as her daughter. And so she kind of looked at me like that, like a surrogate daughter. Just at work, though. It didn't ever go outside of work. But so she was like 30 years older than me. But we would go out to lunch a lot, and she was very passionate about her political beliefs and her religious beliefs. And I kind of felt like she was the type of person that if she were to find out that my political and religious beliefs were different than hers, she wouldn't have wanted to interact with me anymore. So I thought that, okay, I should probably just kind of go along, talk about how and what I do agree with her on, and just kind of pretend like I kind of feel and think the same way. When in reality, I should have let her know up front, because I can do that very kindly, just kind of say, I don't really like talking politics or religion, or my beliefs are actually quite different than yours, so I don't necessarily agree with you on that, but I support your beliefs. And really give her the opportunity to decide right then and there if I'm someone that she still wants to go eat lunch with and develop a relationship with, or if she now is judging me and doesn't want to interact with me. Like, I should have given her that opportunity, but I didn't. And then there would be another coworker who maybe actually shared my political and religious beliefs. So when they talked to me about it, I felt a lot more at ease, because then I felt like I could open up a little more, or at least that I wasn't being fake with them. But then these two coworkers started interacting and talking a lot more because we all worked together. And then I was nervous, thinking, oh my gosh, at some point, like, what if a conversation comes up and each one of these people discovers that, I don't know, you just get in an anxiety spiral. Like, what if she discovers that I'm actually not this political belief or ideology or this religion, and it's from this other coworker of mine who's like, wait, what? No, Addison told me that she thinks blah, blah, blah. Like, then you just feel like you're walking on eggshells. So this could be the type of situation you're in at work. There's something that you feel like you can't quite figure out how to be authentic about it. It could be just in general, overall, or there could be one particular situation where it's like you kind of feel like you are shape-shifting into what people want from you, and you want to find a way to not be so fearful or scared into just being fully authentic. And like, how do I do that in a way that doesn't burn bridges, that doesn't incite anger in people? The truth is that when we do become fully authentic after not having been authentic our whole life or for many years, the truth is there will be relationships that are lost from that, because the relationships that you have are based on an inauthentic version of you. That person liked the fake version of you, the one that they thought you were. So of course, once they find out who you really are, maybe, they're not going to be that into you anymore. And some relationships will fall away. It's not possible, if you're being authentic, to be liked by everybody. Okay, so that's the fear that you kind of have to push past, recognizing that, okay, when I do this, I may lose some relationships in the process, but at least the ones that remain are ones that will be based in authenticity. At least then I can feel like these people truly love me for me because they know who I actually am. You can end up feeling very hollow and empty inside when you look at your relationships around you and realize that they don't even actually love or like me because they don't actually know who I am. They love and like this fake version of me. So you end up feeling kind of lonely, hollow, empty inside, even though you're surrounded by people that adore you, because you know that they don't actually even know you. So it's hard to feel that reception of love, to feel like you're truly loved, because you're not sharing who you actually are. But okay, let's get into some of the other cards and see what else Spirit wants to say about this. Okay, so we have spiritual growth of mentality, and it's in reversed. It says inability to recognize the spiritual purposes of your relationships, the soul contracts made before birth, and the negative relationship patterns you were meant to break or uproot in this lifetime. Failing to understand that pain and trauma is meant to show you growth, wisdom, and unconditional love, and clear past life karmas. This card's associated with Neptune also in Libra in the 11th house. That's very interesting. Okay, so it sounds like you, in this lifetime, you're supposed to be really focusing on breaking this pattern, becoming authentic. I feel like there were a lot of past lives where you were kind of forced to conform, be what people wanted to be, perhaps because your life was on the line or the life of your children was on the line if you didn't conform. Kind of like, think about maybe an example would be like in World War II. If you were a Jewish person living in Germany, you may have decided to hide that you were Jewish, right? For the sake of saving your children, saving yourself, not wanting to end up in a concentration camp. So you kind of had to be inauthentic for the sake of your livelihood, right? So, but in this life and in this day and age, that's not really the case. There's not going to be very many situations in 2020, 2021 and beyond in which you being authentic is going to cost you your life or the lives of people around you. But I feel like on some level, on a soul level, that sort of fear actually sinks in with you. That sort of fear is still there, that like being authentic in this area is going to absolutely destroy my life, okay? So Spirit's wanting you to recognize that that anxiety, that fear that you feel from that isn't today's reality. That's from traumas in the past. Some of these things could be traumas from your childhood that you dealt with, where you had to be inauthentic in order to salvage your own livelihood in a sense, but you're not there anymore. You're at a different place now. It is safe to be authentic. Kind of the worst thing you could lose in this first process of coming out is maybe a few relationships. Not everyone's going to like you. But there shouldn't be like a fight or flight reaction with this. And if you do have it, and it does come up, it's okay to remind yourself, okay, this level of fear and anxiety that I'm feeling, it does not match my reality. It is not necessary. It is not helpful. I will be okay. And kind of self-soothe yourself through that anxiety. Okay, let's look at the interactive card. Wow, this is so perfect for what we're talking about. Look here, we have a panel of judges, right? Each grading this, basically she's a Barbie doll. I think it's supposed to look like a pageant, but look, she's a literal Barbie doll. She's mechanical, she's fake, she's not a real person. And that's kind of the message of this card. Have you completely become a shell of yourself? Have you allowed anyone to really see the real you? It kind of reminds me of like Pinocchio and how he wants to become a real boy. that kind of feels like the phase that you're in, this Pinocchio phase. And just think about that. Would actually be a great movie for you guys to rewatch or a book to read, because I feel that there's a lot of symbolism in that story with your own. Okay, Spirit's wanting me to say that. But yeah, it almost feels like you feel like you're constantly having to perform for others, to be what others want you to be. And you really desperately want to keep everybody happy. That's really what's at the root of all this. You want to make people happy. You care about people. But at this point, it's coming at the cost of your authentic self. And that's where the boundary needs to be set for you. Okay, let's look at the tarot cards. All right, we have Six of Swords, King of Pentacles. This is earth energy, so Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. That could be you, or that could represent someone in this situation, perhaps a male in this situation. And then we have Ace of Swords, okay? So a lot of air energy too. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Okay, so Six of Swords is in reverse. When it's upright, it represents someone kind of hopping in a boat and escaping a bad situation, getting himself to somewhere that's more peaceful and kind of like leaving the past behind. You know, he may have to move to another country. Perhaps his existing country is war-torn, so he's going to have to go and start a whole new life somewhere brand new. But it's worth it, because he knows that if he stays in that war-torn country, he will die. So he's got to get himself out into safety, into peace. When it's in reverse, it kind of represents a resistance to that. You're very, very familiar with this fake persona that you have created. Okay, it's become kind of a lot of these reactions that you have, the way you interact, it's almost default. And to unprogram all of that is very overwhelming and very scary. You know, you don't want to have to leave your war-torn country. What you want is for your war-torn country to just become peaceful again, right? But as you get older, like, life gets more complicated and it's not that simple. Sometimes we do have to just break away, and that is what Spirit's wanting you to do at this time. Break away. Allow the relationships that don't serve you to fall away, even if it's a career, a job, a boss, a parent, a romantic partner. You're going to have to leave something behind. And I see that there's some fear holding you back. King of Pentacles often does represent a job, a career choice. That could be the case for a lot of you, or it could represent an earth sign person in your life, just showing that, you know, yeah, this relationship will suffer a little bit at first, or may have to be cut out completely, which is what the Ace of Swords is about. Clearing things out, and being very to the point, very blunt, very honest, okay? That's the Ace of Swords. It's a new beginning in what you're communicating, what you're saying, clearing some things out of your life, getting rid of the clutter, you know, which you know, when we're someone who's liked by everyone for the sake of some sort of fake persona that we're putting out there, our life can feel very cluttered, very much like, well, I've got to, it's like a juggling act, right? Because, okay, I've got to put on this persona when I'm with this person who wants to hang out with me, and then this person wants to see me, and I've got to shift into that persona. It's almost like kind of like a DID, you know, which is it's a disorder in which your identity has literally split into different fragments and pieces due to trauma at a young age. And it's very much outside of that person's control, and they just have to learn to manage it and deal with it. But it's a lifelong process and can feel very overwhelming. It almost feels like you feel that way, like you have this very fragmented identity that's split into so many different parts, and you can't quite figure out how to put these fragments together into one person, the person that is you. Okay, but I know that there's a fear of something that's got to be let go. There's something that you already know you've got to leave behind, and you recognize it, or at least Spirit saying that's the first step in all of this. Okay, the fragmented parts of you and kind of piecing those back together, that'll come later on. Start with the first thing, which is cutting out this job or this relationship or this persona of yours. Start with that. And then you'll see Spirit's coming in, your guardian angels are coming in. They'll lead you to the next step. You don't have to think so far ahead. Just take the first step is what I'm hearing, okay? All right, let's look at the surrender deck. All right, it says, surrender to the wisdom of your body. Listen to your body's messages about a person or a situation. If you feel physically drained or uncomfortable, be cautious. If you are energized and happy, move forward. Beautiful, because I do feel a lot of anxiety from this pile. When you're in situations where you feel like you're putting on an act for people, being what people want you to be, it's constant anxiety because you're having to constantly keep up with your own, not lies, you know, but it's like an acting job. It's almost like you're an actor or actress 24/7, and against your will, though, almost. So it feels like you're getting exhausted with that. So start prioritizing the relationships and things that where you feel like you can just kind of relax and breathe and chill. Be around the people that truly know you. Allow people to truly know you, and stop putting yourself or trying to force yourself into certain boxes that don't sit right with you, where you do feel like you're having to play pretend, that do cause you a lot of anxiety. Let go of that. Listen to your body. If you are anxiety ridden when you're with a certain person, that's a sign from your body that this isn't a person you should be spending a lot of time with. This is a person that's going to drain or exhaust you. It's time to start putting your time into people and things that relax you, that fulfill you. Okay, let's look at the Mona Lisa deck. So this first side is kind of a negative subconscious thought pattern that's driving the situation or having an effect. And then this is the reverse, what spirit wants you to replace it with. And this is a healthy joy card. So it says, if my friends or loved ones are unhappy, I do my best to make them more cheerful. See, that goes so well with what I was saying. It's like deep down, you just want to make everyone happy, but you're doing it at the expense of your authentic self, right? It's good to want to make people feel happy, but there's a lot of ways to do that without becoming fake, without putting on a persona, actually just being you. And if there is a situation in which the only way to make that person happy is to be fake, is to put on a mask, then that's where you've got to set a boundary and say, this person's just going to have to be unhappy with me. They're just going to have to not like me. I can't compromise my integrity as a person for the sake of their happiness. Okay, Spirit wants you to replace that phrase with, if my loved ones are in pain, I do not try to smother them with love, trying to make them happy. I can support them and allow them space to experience their feelings. And I think that's really what this whole authentic thing comes down to for you. You are really, really terrified of a lot of emotions. I think you are terrified of anger. You are terrified of regret. You are terrified of guilt. You are terrified of hatred, of dislike. You are terrified of pain. You're terrified of sadness. You are terrified of basically the only emotions I feel that you're not terrified of. No, you know what? Even love terrifies you. That's what I just heard from Spirit. Even love terrifies you. The only thing you're not terrified of is peace, harmony, laughter, joy. Okay? But that's a very limited amount of emotions. Humans are much more complex than that. And emotions should not be feared. They should be embraced and felt. That's what the flow of life is all about. Sometimes we're pissed off. Sometimes we do things we regret. Sometimes we want to get revenge. Sometimes we're jealous. Sometimes we're envious. Like sometimes we're all of these things. But you are so freaking scared of all of those emotions that you try and like keep everyone around you from also ever feeling those emotions, or to do what you can to not have them feel that way, at least when it comes to things that involve you. You get really scared at the idea of someone is pissed off at me. That terrifies you. Someone, or I'm feeling jealous of this person. That terrifies you. So all these emotions are getting repressed down into the shadow, and you're basically becoming this sort of Barbie version of yourself. Don't be scared of those emotions. It's okay. It's okay to be angry, to be pissed. It's okay to be sad, to mourn. It's okay to even be depressed sometimes. Sometimes we just feel depressed. It's not the ideal. We want to do something to help heal it or fix it, but we shouldn't wake up like terrified because we're feeling depressed. Not being terrified of the emotions, using our emotions as kind of like a tool, a map to help navigate, to help us use in our life. And to kind of investigate them, like almost looking at your emotions like a clue to something. Oh, this person's angry at me. Let me investigate this and see why. Let me dive deep into this and see why, maybe what I can do to help heal it. I'm feeling really envious of this person. Okay, wonder why. And kind of more investigating it, not having a fear and being like, oh crap, I'm feeling jealous. I've got to hide this before someone else notices. Like, I've got to be perfect. Or you're going to keep feeling exhausted, okay? So Spirit's really helping you to kind of rebrand yourself, basically. Step into your true identity, the one that's always been you, but's been hidden away or distorted or fragmented because of, whatever situations in your life led to that. Okay, let's look at the last couple of cards. We have Step into the Unknown. Goes very well with the Six of Swords in reverse. And we have fulfillment. Beautiful card. Yeah, you think this Barbie here can experience fulfillment? No, she's hollow inside. She's empty. She's not a real person. She can't experience emotions. When we can't experience emotions, when we're in fear of them, we not only block out all the negative ones, the ones that we don't want to deal with or feel, we also inadvertently block out all of the positive ones. And we also block out our sense of purpose and feeling fulfilled in our life. We'll be on a never-ending chase towards fulfillment and never get there. Spirit wants to help you experience true fulfillment, and it starts with your authenticity. Spirit wants to fill you up with all of your emotions, with an identity that feels very concrete to you, that doesn't feel fake. They want to help you discover your own identity, to embrace it, regardless of what other people think about it, you know? And so that's kind of the path that you're on here. I want to pull some words from you from my little blue bowl. Let's see what comes out for you. I'm going to try to do like 2 or 3. Let's see what we've got. All right. Oh, yep. We have trustworthy, health-oriented. We have 2 cards here kind of signifying things about the body, and empathetic. Okay, so this trustworthy. I do feel, remember how I talked about how whenever we get older, like relationships get more complicated, much more nuanced. It's a lot easier when you're a kid to kind of be inauthentic or shapeshift for others and not really feel like you're in a web of consequences about it or worry. But as we get older, that just becomes impossible. So I do feel, especially with this love card, I feel like there's been some situations with you where you've broken people's trust for the sake of your care and your love for them, okay? Because everything you do does come from a place of love. But like maybe you had a friend who told you they were doing something and you knew that that was really bad for them. But because you want the approval of your friend, you played along and kind of pretended like you were excited about what you were doing, or you also agreed with them that it's okay to do. But then in the back of your head, you're thinking, what? This is horrible. They can't do this. This is dangerous for them. So then you kind of broke your friend's trust to maybe go behind their back and maybe call one of their parents or a spouse or someone to let them know, like, hey, so-and-so is doing this. They need to be saved or helped. I felt like I needed to let you know, right? So you're thinking, well, I'm doing it with the best of intentions, and you truly are. That's the truth. But you did break that friend's trust. Not because you disagreed with them, that's fine. We always disagree with our friends, but because you didn't tell them yourself that you disagreed with them. You didn't tell them what you really thought. And relationships, good, healthy relationships, have to be honest. This could have been something with a spouse, though, or maybe some of you are getting more serious in a romantic relationship. And where up until this point, you've kind of maybe played along, like, no, I just want them to love me, so I'm just going to agree with everything they say. I don't want to rock the boat with them. I really want this to be a joyful dating experience. And now maybe things are getting more real. And now you're worried about you actually opening up to this person and saying, hey, you know how you said that you believed this or that you wanted to do this and I agreed? Now it's getting really real and I actually don't agree with that. And maybe you're worried of them rejecting you and being like, well, I guess you're not the right person for me because this is a deal breaker of mine. So it almost feels like you're doing a lot of things, like faking your way through a lot of things because you're worried that if you don't, you're going to lose these relationships. Spirit really, really wants you to focus on being trustworthy. A trustworthy person is honest with the people they interact with. If they disagree with something, they let the person know. And you don't have to do it with anger or fear or anxiety. You can just state it. And if a relationship is lost because of that, then it wasn't the relationship for you. But in most cases, people enjoy honesty. In most intimate, actually in all serious, healthy, intimate relationships, those two people aren't going to agree on everything. It comes down to like compromise, you know? So the health-oriented word that came up, that's spirits wanting you to focus on your health. I feel specifically your anxiety and your stress levels. There may be some sort of supplement that you can take or medicine you can take. It's time to start honoring that because I feel like you want so badly to not have any issues that you may kind of push away the medication, push away the supplements, push away whatever it is that could actually help you. And Spirit's wanting you to kind of allow yourself to be vulnerable and actually take care of it because the anxiety I do feel is overwhelming you. It's time to take care of yourself and love yourself, to take care of your health. Whether that be maybe exercise really helps with your anxiety. That could be another thing. Maybe certain foods trigger your anxiety. So really like honoring that part of of yourself, your body, your health. And then we have empathic. I do feel that you all are incredibly empathic people, and it's why you are so scared of certain emotions, because you feel those emotions so intensely. I mean, they're so intense because you're so empathic. It's like if someone else is feeling something, it's like you feel it and you almost feel bombarded with it. And that's kind of what's led you into this sort of mask that you wear for others, this fake identity, this persona. But a healthy empath is actually extremely comfortable with emotions, is a guide to others in terms of emotions. But I feel like you are that for others in a lot of ways. In the situations where you get very scared is when the emotions have to do with you. Like you feel like you're an amazing person. Like if you've got a friend or a family member that is crying, let's say they've lost a loved one, like you're not scared to watch them cry. You're not scared to like go and hug them, to comfort them. You're very empathic. Because you feel those emotions. You probably cry with them too, even if it's something that has nothing to do with you because you're such an empath. But if it's a friend that's angry at you or a family member that's irritated or upset at you, it's like you feel that irritation coming off of them and you're so scared of it. It's almost like you react very strongly. You don't want to allow that to be there. So Spirit's wanting you to focus on your empathic abilities and kind of embracing them and allowing them, and also asking yourself, why do I feel so comfortable, hugging my friend and crying with her when she's upset because her dad has passed away? I feel super comfortable and at ease in that situation. And that's me using my empathic abilities, feeling those emotions with her. And that feels great. Why is it that when it's a family member or a partner coming to me, angry at me because of something that I did, that I can't do the same for them, that I can't also be empathic with them to really step in their shoes and think about why they're angry at me, what they're feeling, what their perspective was on that, and then really connect with them. Why do I want to block that off and run from it just because it's an emotion that's related to me, a negative emotion that is related to me? Spirit's wanting you to kind of break that wall down. Start trying to get more comfortable, or maybe detaching, feeling the emotions your partner's feeling when they're like, I am pissed. I can't believe that you did this. That really upset me. And allowing yourself to detach from it, kind of like you do when you're comforting the friend whose dad has passed, and really just get in your partner's headspace and be like, okay, yep, I understand what you're feeling. Yep, I totally get it. Yep, I get why you're upset. Or if you don't understand why they're upset, kind of explaining why or talking through it, trying to get to a level of understanding, but definitely not feeling like you've got to just run away from the situation completely, or set the whole thing on fire. Okay, so man, if you guys are only pile 2 and they've been very complex, very complicated. Okay, so but I know you guys are going to get through this. You're welcome to ask me any questions down below, because like I said, I have been in this phase. I feel like authenticity is something that it never stops, right? There's always more growth. There's always things to learn. But I have been through kind of like a big shift and turning point, and it felt very scary, very overwhelming. So if you have any questions, you can comment those down below. Start by doing the first thing that you know that needs to be done. The complex nuances of the emotions and the anxiety and everything, those will be the next steps. But I literally also see that with this particular group, there is like a team of angels or guides that are with you, that are going to walk and guide you to each next step. They're going to lay it out almost like a PowerPoint presentation, or I don't know. Okay, you're not alone in this, I guess, is what they want you to know. They'll guide you to the next stage, the next little point. But you've got to start with that first step. Okay, so I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming. I enjoyed connecting with you once again, and I look forward to seeing you for next week's Pick a Card reading. I'll leave you here. Bye. Hey Pile 3, welcome to your reading. I hope you're somewhere comfortable, peaceful, where you can kind of sit back, relax, and we can really connect and discover some things as we go through this little tarot therapy session. Maybe grab yourself a drink and a snack, get in some comfy clothes, whatever you need to do to relax. And for those of you that can't possibly do that at this time, that are in the midst of just a really chaotic environment but still showed up for this, kudos to you. I want to congratulate you on being here, because I do know that sometimes in life we can't always escape. We can't always create that harmonious environment that we would like. But the fact that we still do what needs to be done is what matters, and you're here. So hopefully, as you hear my voice as we go through these cards, it will help connect you to your intuition, to your soul, and you can leave with a sense of peace. So let's start by looking at the card topper you all gravitated towards, awareness. Now, when I told you to pick your piles, I said to pick the word that best represented what was feeling blocked for you at this time, what you were really wanting to overcome, become better at. And for you, it was awareness. So you could be you could be on this journey of exploration. Like, I want to become more aware of the subconscious tendencies that drive me, why they do. I want to connect the dots. You could also want to avoid being blindsided. Perhaps you feel like perhaps you're insecure with your own intuition, and you've been in situations with friends, family, coworkers, where something comes up that makes you feel like, oh my God, how did I not see the freaking red flags? Like, am I an idiot? Like, I almost feel like you're being kind of hard on yourself. You want to be like this sort of detective in your life, and a good detective picks up on all the clues, right? So I feel like you're searching for awareness in that sense. You want to feel like you're not going to let anything get past you. Like, you'll be able to see and notice what needs to be seen. I like this journey. I like this journey for you, this journey of self-awareness. This is truly, I don't know, Spirit's wanting to talk about what a luxury it is, even though I don't think you feel this way at this time, but what a luxury it is for you to have the ability to start to explore your subconscious, your sense of awareness, your intuition, okay? They've set up some things for you to help prepare you for this journey, or help get this journey started, okay? This journey of awareness. But they do keep wanting me to point out that this is a luxury, this is a privilege for you to go on this journey. Some people never reach this point in their life, because there's honestly so many other things that have to be prioritized and taken care of first before you get to the awareness. Kind of think of awareness as like, look at like a pyramid, for example. Awareness would be at the top of the pyramid, and maybe at the bottom it would be like survival, food, enough money to live off of, and then maybe the next would be like a sense of community, some relationships. It would kind of go up. So start with the basics, and then awareness is like, that's the pinnacle, that's at the top. So the fact that you've gotten to a place in your life where there's even room to explore this peak of this pyramid is a privilege. And they just keep wanting me to let you know that. So either congratulations for getting your way up to the top of this pyramid yourself, okay? Some of you may have done it all on your own. Others of you, Spirit may have done some things for you, brought in some surprise gifts, rearranged some certain things in your life in order to create a space for you to explore the top of this pyramid. But either way, they are wanting you to tap into a sense of gratefulness for your life at this moment, okay? Because I do feel like you're having a hard time being grateful or practicing gratefulness. And sometimes, actually all the time, gratefulness it has to be a choice. Kind of like that quote about, love is a choice. It's not just something you feel, it's a choice you wake up and make every day when you decide to marry someone, right? Gratefulness is kind of the same thing, because we can always choose to focus on the negative, to focus on the downsides, to focus on what's lacking, just as we can always choose to focus on what we have around us to be grateful for. And Spirit feels that and we also have to look at this gratefulness, this choice to be grateful, kind of like we look at exercising. Like, if I was to go to the gym today and try and lift like 100-pound weight, it would be impossible, and I shouldn't hate on myself for that, right? It's like, well, of course I can't lift it. Like, I haven't practiced those muscles up enough. But if I went every single day and did a little bit, eventually lifting that 100-pound weight would be quite easy, would come quite naturally to me. So the same goes for gratefulness. It's a muscle that has to be exercised, okay? It's not just going to come out of nowhere. So it's not that they don't want to hate on you or make you feel negative or call you ungrateful. It's not that at all. They want you to consciously start working this muscle, practicing this muscle of yours. You know, maybe having a moment of gratefulness once a day, maybe in the morning, maybe writing out some things to be grateful for, maybe just keeping more tabs on the negative thoughts, complaints that come into your mind. Some of you, I think for a lot of us, it's really natural to, in our conversations with others, to complain a lot because we don't want to come across as like a bragger, you know, like, oh, this is great in my life and that's great in my life. We feel more like we're connecting with others sometimes if we're focusing on what we have to complain about, seek advice about, right? But Spirit's wanting you to make a balance in that area of your life to, I guess that's all they want to say about that. Try and be very grateful and also recognize that you are a special individual who was chosen for this path of awareness, that this is a privilege, that a lot of people don't get to this spot in life and you're here. So be grateful for it. Be proud of yourself. Recognize the privilege that you have, that your soul has. Privilege isn't always just about money, okay, material things, because we're all souls and we're going to leave this body and this life behind and go back into a soul. So real privilege has to do with those things that help us advance at a soul level. And you guys have that. You guys are very, very rich souls, regardless of what your outside reality looks like. Okay? All right. I know that was a bit of a tangent, but let's look at the die real quick and then we'll get into the cards. Okay, we have Venus in the 8th house in Scorpio. And Scorpio actually rules the 8th house traditionally. Venus is about love, relationships, our values, our money. Scorpio is also about, Scorpio is that detective that I was talking about at the beginning. Nothing gets past the Scorpio. They're very intuitive, very investigative. They find out all the facts, all the details. They uncover all the dark secrets, right? They are that detective. But Scorpio is also a sign of deep intimacy and connection with others. It's about what we share in our life with others, our shared resources with others. The 8th house is about all that too. It's kind of the house of, 7th house is the house of just marriage and partnership at a very kind of mental level. The 8th house is about the deep intimacy and interactions that go into that partnership, being dependent on another person being dependent on you emotionally, financially, or otherwise, that interdependency. Even with our sexual needs, Scorpio and the 8th house are all about that as well. So for some of you, there could be some sexual traumas that you experienced at a young age, or it could be that you have this level of, it almost feels like there could be a trigger for you with your sexuality and your intimate relationships. That's interesting. Almost like when things become too intimate, too personal, it's like something may trigger you and you may react in an odd way and feel very out of control, but also not understand why or where the hell these emotions are coming from. And you kind of feel like an idiot because then your partner may ask you like, why are you doing this? What's going on? And you don't have an answer. You're like, I don't know. I don't know why I do this. Dang it. So I feel like you're wanting to become aware of like, where do these weird subconscious drives and tendencies come from? I'm sick of feeling overpowered by them. I want to understand them. I think for some of you, you've been in relationships where you've been dumped in a very blindsided way, like didn't see it coming or even cheated on. Okay. And I also feel like for a lot of you, there were relationships in your childhood too that were either ripped away from you, something was broken down, and you felt very out of the loop. Like maybe you have a lot of older siblings and the parents were divorcing, and you felt like you did not understand what was really going on at the time. And then only as you got older looking back, you thought, wow, I was always so out of the loop. I never knew what the hell was going on. And that's kind of, I don't know, you just have this deep-seated belief that you are a very unaware person, and that scares you and it frustrates you and it ticks you off. But you are now delving into this area of your life. Okay, this is great. This is going to be fantastic for you. And you really aren't. You do have, you know what the real thing is with you? You aren't an unaware person. Scorpio in the 8th house, this is incredible intuitive energy. You are very intuitive, very intuitive. You guys would be great psychologists, researchers, scientists, like things that really require you investigating into something. That's a natural gift of yours. And in fact, I bet you do a really good job at utilizing those gifts at work, in your work environment. It's in your relationships that you get tripped up. And it's because you don't trust your intuition when it comes to your relationships. You ignore things. You push them aside. You think, no, it's probably not true. Like my intuition doesn't really know what's going on. Like whatever. You push it away. You block it when it comes to your relationships. So you're not an unaware person. You're just rejecting your own intuition in your personal life. That's all it is. So this is going to be an easy fix for you guys, easier than you realize. And once you really start embracing your intuitive side, yeah, these subconscious tendencies that bother you, I feel like you have weird fears, phobias, and you don't know why you have them, and you want to understand why you're at a point where you're like sick of being scared of this, that, or the other. You want to understand the subconscious connection. A lot of you may suffer from intense nightmares, and you're finally at a point where you're like, okay, enough is enough. Like, I want to figure out what the symbolism, the meaning of these nightmares are, why they're coming up, what is the pain here that keeps coming up at night for me. You're going to do all of it, okay? You guys are hella smart, okay? Like I said, this Scorpio 8th house energy, you are very smart, very intuitive, very investigative. So as soon as you let go of this, as soon as you embrace the fact that you are, I guess is what I should say, once you realize and accept this about yourself, you'll be able to go full force and uncover and clear a lot of things from your life. Okay, let's look at the tarot. We have stage 8 of feelings, and it's reversed. It says, been there, done that. Now I know better. Coming back to life after learning something. Back to reality. It could also mean partying, back and fully engaged in your day-to-day life, not walking away from something even though it no longer fulfills you. Those are kind of the alternate meanings. This card is also associated with the 8th house, Saturn and Pisces in the 8th house. Yeah, so you're smart, okay? You're getting smarter. I feel like you're kind of wanting this to happen all at once though. But yeah, there's something that happened with you recently that you finally feel confident in saying, it's almost like you've grieved it, you're over it, and now you're like, yeah, been there, done that, now I know better. And you truly do. You truly can trust yourself, okay? That's really what this whole lack of awareness actually is, a lack of trust in yourself. It's not that you're unaware. You are aware. You don't trust yourself to let you know, to let you become aware of things, to point out things. Because you do point out things to yourself. You're very aware. And you say, I see that. Your intuition does this with you. It says, I see that. That feels weird. Something feels off. And then this other part of you is like, no, I can't trust my gut. I can't trust my intuition. It's saying it sees something, but I can't trust that. Your intuition is very, very freaking aware. I don't know why I'm almost wanting to like shout that to you. Trust yourself. You guys are so freaking smart, so freaking aware. You came here thinking that this is what you were struggling with. No, you're not. The only thing you are struggling with is trusting yourself. Trusting your intuition when it speaks to you, listening to it, letting it guide you. Stop treating your intuition like it's dumb and like it doesn't know what it's doing. Your intuition is so much stronger than the majority of people, okay? That's the truth. You've got a damn good intuition, and it's time to start valuing it and listening to it. Trust yourself. Okay, let's look at the interactive deck. All right, we have the little girl in the corner. Looks like she's fearful, and we kind of see this shadow coming towards her that she's scared of. Could be a parent, some sort of authority figure, or it could be, a spirit, a ghost, a demon, something from her own imagination. But yeah, there's this inner child within you that does live in fear, that does feel, it's almost like you feel very small. That's why you don't trust yourself. For example, like a child can't trust itself fully. It has to rely on adults, on older, wiser, stronger, bigger people to, cook meals for it, to drive cars. Like a child should not trust itself to drive a vehicle, right? That's the right thing to do. That's the right way to be. Like until you're an adult and you've taken the classes, don't trust yourself to do certain things. Children need to trust and rely on others and not trust in themselves, okay? But you're supposed to grow up and kind of grow out of that, start gaining more trust in yourself. It feels like you are stuck it's almost like you're stuck in this idea that you're still this little child that doesn't know anything. In fact, some of you may have been the youngest in your family, for example, or you may have been belittled by people in your family or maybe friends, just kind of made to feel dumb and stupid, honestly. The people in your environment that you grew up with, and I don't know if they were doing it as a joke. It could have been a lighthearted thing that they didn't really realize how it was affecting you. But they just made you feel kind of like a baby, the baby of the family. We're always going to be smarter than you because you're the youngest or whatever. Your parents may have even babied you and not even allowed you to grow into your independence the way that you should have. Like I feel like some of you may have You actually were kids that could, with a different set of parents, would have been very independent children, like learned to potty at a very advanced age, learned the alphabet at a very advanced age. Also, I don't feel like with another set of parents, you would have been the type to probably not nurse very long, for example, or bottle feed very long, or need a pacifier. I don't know, there's this, you have this independence at your core, but it feels like you had a parent, maybe a mom or a dad, that was constantly trying to, I don't know, it's almost like they're like, no, no, you need to sleep with mommy, don't you? You need to sleep with daddy, don't you? You don't want to sleep on your own. You need to nurse a little longer. Here, you need this comfort blanket, or you need. So it's almost like they, I don't know, from a very young age, from siblings, parents, environment in general, it's like you were constantly being told that, no, you can't trust yourself. You can't trust that. No, you need help. You need this, okay? And that's stayed with you. It's still with you. And so you kind of feel still, there's a part of you that feels like an unaware, naive, silly little child now navigating as an adult in this big, scary world in which you can't trust yourself to take care of yourself. And that's probably why a lot of you have, I think you guys, most of you suffer from like nightmares and things, or even just like maybe having panic attacks in your own bedrooms at night, like being in fear of like shadows and sounds and noise. It's like everything is so scary because you still have this belief that you're this kid inside, that you're really just this kid. Like, who am I fooling here? I'm still just that little kid that everyone picked on, that everyone called dumb, that everyone said didn't have much potential or couldn't be trusted, okay? But the reality is you are not. You are not that kid anymore. And honestly, I'm upset and sad that you deferred to other people's opinions of you over your own. And of course, as a kid, we can't help it. It happens. What our parents believe of us, we believe of us as well, until we reach an age where we're like, you know what, but they were wrong about that. That's not true. That's the stage that you're at, realizing that the things you heard about yourself growing up weren't true, that these people's opinions were completely wrong. And now you know that. And now you know better not to allow other people's opinions of yourself, who you are, your potential, interfere with your confidence in what you think about yourself, okay? This is an important stage for you. But yeah, you're really, really smart. This is a smart pile here. The people who gravitated towards this pile are very intelligent, okay? Very aware people. It's just time to believe it about yourself. Okay, let's look at the tarot. We have the Emperor. This is Aries energy. The Knight of Wands, more fire energy, so Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And the Empress, this is Venus energy, and Venus came up here on the die. So Taurus, Libra, but just Venus in general. And did you know that the Emperor and the Empress are married? They're like the most powerful married couple in the tarot deck. The only other married couples are like the King and Queen court cards. Interesting. So yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of from like mom and dad, one-on-one long-term relationships. You had a very skewed, not skewed actually. I don't feel like you had a healthy understanding of divine masculine and divine feminine because of the environment you grew up in. It feels like it was very leaned in one direction. So maybe you grew up primarily with mom, so you saw a lot of divine feminine energy, but not divine masculine. Or maybe some of you grew up primarily with dad, or, you know, one particular grandparent. But yeah, it feels like it was all kind of, something's out of balance here. It was all leaned into kind of one area, very, very feminine or very, very masculine. And so and of course you are a combination of divine masculine and divine feminine energies. We all are. But so it feels like you almost haven't blended the two of those, okay? One of these, whether it be the masculine or the feminine, you're not as comfortable with, or you're not as used to seeing. It's almost like you just feel like you don't have the knowledge or awareness of it. And Scorpio, which came up in the die, is about this deep intimacy and kind of the power of intimacy and union with another being, with another part of ourselves even. And so there's going to be a lot, you're going to get a really big power and confidence boost as you start to blend your masculine and feminine energies. So feminine energy is much more receptive, okay? It's much more relaxed. It's much more about kind of helping things, fostering, nurturing, helping things grow that are already there, emotionally connecting with others. And yeah, so and masculine energy is much more about creating something new, assertiveness, kind of going out, adventures, explorations, conquering something. So it's much more extroverted. It's a more extroverted energy. Like, I'm going to assert myself on the world and do what in it? Whereas feminine energy is much more, I'm going to receive what's already around me, analyze and understand what's already here. It's not as comfortable with like conquering, fighting, pushing through, that sort of energy. So it'll be different for each one of you, but now would be the time to kind of identify, okay, which one is it that I lean more towards? Which one is more out of balance? How do I create balance with the two of these? Who also, I feel like a lot of you are Spirit's going to bring in some mentors into your life, whether it be an amazing book written by, let's say your divine masculine is what feels more lacking for you. I feel like there's going to be an incredible book written by like a male author that really inspires you, that helps you understand this energy better. Maybe there's a certain YouTuber or YouTube channel that can be a great mentor, someone you watch and look up to, listen to what they say. Or it could be actual people in your life and your environment, a new relationship, maybe a boss, an employee that's kind of older and wiser than you that you kind of gain knowledge from, peers, maybe certain siblings. But yeah, there's going to be some sort of really healthy version of divine masculine energy and divine feminine energy, maybe more than one person, two people, to help you. It's going to give you something to kind of learn from, look up to, embrace, and it's going to help you understand and become aware of the masculinity and the femininity within you and how to use it. Okay, let's look at the Mona Lisa deck, and then I want to look at the surrender card too. Okay, so this side is going to talk about a negative subconscious phrase that's playing out. The other side will be kind of what to replace it with. So this is a healthy relationships card. It says, I'm meant to be alone. Relationships usually end traumatically for me. Oh, wow. Okay. And Spirit wants you to replace it with, I lovingly release disappointment in old relationships so I can give birth to new ones. So I did see in this card that there was potentially a relationship that ended and you're kind of out of the grieving phase of it and more just like, okay, I'm not making that mistake again. I get it. But it does look like maybe a protective mechanism that you're using to help kind of get over that is just kind of being like, well, I'm just meant to be alone anyway. So let me just already accept that I'm probably going to be alone forever. I'm probably never going to find anyone. And if I can be okay with that, then I'll be good. Kind of like lowering your expectations, right? If you set your expectations so low, then anything extra or anything that exceeds it just feels so exciting and like such a blessing, right? So I feel like you've almost kind of tried to convince yourself to get okay with, well, I'm probably just going to be alone. That's okay. Or I'm probably never going to reach this level of success. That's okay. Okay. And Spirit's wanting you to not allow yourself to do that, to release the disappointment, right? Disappointments do happen, but to still have things you're aiming towards, to still believe that, yes, I will be in a healthy, loving, long-term relationship. I'm not going to be alone forever. Are you kidding me? That's so impractical. Like being more practical and grounded, I guess, with the statements that you make about yourself, not being so exaggeratory, not going to such an extreme, and not lowering your expectations for the sake of, I don't want to be disappointed again, so I'm just going to set the bar low, okay? And fostering healthy, balanced relationships. Okay, let's look at the surrender card. Wow. It says, surrender your fear of intimacy. We have a lot of stuff talking about marriage and relationships. Scorpio energy, the Venus energy, Emperor, Empress. This is, okay, it says, you are ready to let love in. Compassionately identify and begin to release any patterns that stop you from opening your heart. Yeah, I think it's great that you guys have clearly learned something from your past relationships. You definitely feel smarter, you feel healed, okay? You feel ready to move forward. But I do think that you feel like, okay, I don't want to have to go through all that again. And because I don't trust myself, deep down, remember, it's all about not trusting yourself, to identify the signs, the red flags, to choose the right person. Because I don't trust myself to do that, okay, the solution is to just be okay with being single forever. And Spirit's coming in to say, no, that's not the solution to this. First of all, you can trust yourself. It's time to start listening to yourself. And don't you dare give up on anything in life just because you're scared of being disappointed again. Spirit's like, no, you have so much potential. The bar should be so much higher for you. Don't you dare give up on your dreams just because you're scared of being disappointed. Failure is a natural part of the process. No one reaches success, happiness, joy without trying and failing, sometimes over and over and over again. But you've got to get up and try again. How does a baby learn to walk? It tries, it falls, it tries, it falls, it tries, it falls. You know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of not giving up to learn how to walk, to learn how to ride a bike, to learn how to drive a car, to learn how to swim, to learn how to do anything is always going to involve trying and failing, trying and getting bruised, trying and getting hurt. And slowly, but eventually, you get to what you're after. You are meant, what I can see clearly in these cards is you are meant for true deep intimacy, healthy, meaningful, loving relationships, romantic partnerships. That is meant for you, okay? So Spirit's almost like waving its finger, like, don't you dare, write this off, never attempt this again. You better embrace the failure, embrace the disappointment, keep learning from it, and keep trying and trying again. Just trust yourself a little more. Trust yourself. All right, let's look at the last few cards. Okay, we have It's a Yes, as well as Explore Your Ancestry. Interesting. And then we have the Reminder card. It says Don't Forget on the front. And Conclusion. It says Chapter 1 and then the end. This is good because this means that there's been like a major book phase in your life that has finally concluded. And I feel like it took a long time, possibly many, many years to get through, but the book is finished. You've finished reading it. It's done. It's time to close it and go pick out a new book to read, start a new chapter. So there's some major life cycle that has just come to an end for you. You're going into something new, and that took a lot of work, and it took a lot of openness from your part to truly question and learn, try things new, and to get through this phase. I do see, though, on the Reminder card, okay, it's interesting. It's like even though you learned what you needed to learn from this phase, sometimes we can learn something, but it can still be hard to put it into practice, okay? So like we first become aware of something, we understand it, we get it, and then we have to consciously change our actions moving forward to match what we've become aware of, okay? So like it feels like with that Reminder card, there is something that you have become aware of. There is something new that you've learned, a book that you finally finished on your life. But now it's about actually putting the things that you learned into practice. And if you just abandon reading altogether or like abandon relationships altogether, like, okay, I learned from that, but from now on just going to be single. I don't want to get really intimate with anyone anymore. Then what was the point of reading that book, of learning everything you learned in it? It's kind of like if I were to buy a book that was all about, I don't know, like learning how to fix a car, for example. If I got a book that was about like car engines and car parts and changing the oil on a car and like spent all that time reading it, and like if someone asks me, I can tell them how to do it, but like never actually fixing my own car when it breaks. It would kind of be like, well, Addison, why'd you even read the book? Like if you weren't planning on using it, why read it? That's kind of what Spirit's showing me here. There's something you've learned in regards to love life and relationships, and you learned it, but it's like you don't want to use what you've learned. Okay? You are meant, Spirit's trying to bring in some sort of relationship for you, and you're kind of rejecting it. And Spirit's like, do not go back. Don't go backwards, okay? You need to be looking forwards, progress, not being stagnant, not being at a standstill, not reverting back to childhood even. It's time to get real, to really embrace your adultness, your adult life, which is all about creating independence, creating relationships outside of our family of origin, chasing after our career goals, organizing our credit score, getting our savings account, like these adult things. It's time to keep making progress towards those. Don't revert back for the fear of disappointment. And then we have the It's a Yes card and Explore Your Ancestry. I feel like the It's a Yes card has to do with something that's been on, it has to be something that's been on your mind lately. Some of you may be thinking, well, is this meant for me? Is that meant for me? Spirit's like, yes, it is. Okay. Am I an aware person? Am I smart? Yes, it's a yes. It's a yes. So maybe they're just meaning to answer that for all the things, because I feel like you guys have a really negative, distorted view of yourself. And Spirit's like, no, you are already all these amazing things that you want to be. You're already those things. Stop being hard on yourself and start going out into the world acting as if you were a person that believes in themselves, that trusts themselves. Start utilizing it, putting it into practice. The Explore Your Ancestry card makes me think that I think that there are some patterns repeating for you that you don't quite see, okay? So there's some sort of pattern. It's like an ancestral karma through your family line that you are kind of living out and repeating somehow. So maybe it comes from your mom or your dad or a grandparent, and it's in regards to trusting yourself and relationships. And it's almost like without realizing on some level, you are repeating that karmic cycle, in the negative way, some sort of negative karmic cycle. Perhaps you had a mom who never really trusted herself either, who always felt like she needed someone else to take care of her, to guide her, because she didn't trust her own self. She didn't go after her own goals for fear of disappointment. I don't want to be disappointed anyway, so I'm going to settle and do this instead. So that would just be one example, but there's definitely something in your DNA, your hereditary line, some sort of karmic cycle that you are here to abolish and break. So start looking and comparing that. Look at your mom, look at your dad, and think, in what ways am I kind of repeating and carrying on this legacy? How can I help break this? What do I need to do to help break it? Because I do see that you are meant for a really intimate, deep relationship with another person, long-lasting, trusting, like true unconditional love. I don't think you got a good example of that when you were younger, or maybe just after so many different relationships where you just felt totally screwed over. You're having a hard time believing that that's for you, but it is. As well as success. Start believing in you. Okay, let's pull some words from my little blue bowl. I just want to do 3 or 4. Okay, we have sacrificing, organized, meticulous. We have organized and meticulous. Family-oriented. Okay, some of you may have children then. The Empress is usually a mother. Okay, so meticulous and organized. This is kind of about what it says. It's interesting because the Emperor, he's very good at being meticulous and organized. Part of practicing awareness in our environment and in our life is being organized. If things are disorganized and cluttered, it's very hard to be aware of what we have and what's around us, okay? So being a value of organization is also a value of being aware. I want to be aware of what's going on, of what my bank account looks like, of what my credit score looks like, of what food I actually have in my fridge, of what is in my house. So you can start practicing this awareness. Well, you already are aware, but I think you'll be able to start growing this trust within yourself. Like, okay, I am an aware person. If you can show it to yourself through organization and meticulousness in your day-to-day life. It's going to help kind of boost your confidence in this area of like, no, I know what's going on. If someone asks you, do you have this or that? Like, it's like, So I don't know, it's going to help grow this confidence of, yes, I can trust myself. I am aware of what's going on in my life. So start embracing or valuing organization and meticulousness. Now, the sacrificing card, as well as the family-oriented card, does tell me that there is something over these next few months, I think, well, really starting now, that's going to have to be sacrificed. There's almost like an idea of a person, a fantasy, an illusion that you have of someone. Regardless of, I do see that you've learned in this card, been there, done that, back to reality. I think there is some sort of illusion that you have in regards to relationships that needs to be sacrificed, that needs to be let go. It's not rooted in reality, okay? And the family-oriented card goes well with the Explore Your Ancestry. Maybe this is a good time for you to open up and talk to mom, to dad, ask them questions like, what do you regret most in your life? Or what do you hope for me in my future? Just getting more intimate and personal, because you do have a fear of intimacy. And you're going to need that for your marriage, right? But our first experience with intimacy comes through our childhood and our family relationships. And then we build up from that into romantic life. So this family-oriented card is telling me that it's time to kind of go back to the roots and start practicing deep intimacy with your family relationships, with your parents, with your siblings, with your grandparents. not being afraid to get really intimate and vulnerable with them and really develop an attachment, really good, strong, healthy relationships there. Because that's going to help you feel more comfortable, I guess, with the romantic aspect of intimacy. I do feel that you guys are probably going to hear that from me and think, well, I am super close with my siblings, or I am super close with my friends, or with my mom, or with my dad. Like, so I'm still not understanding why that doesn't translate to my romantic life. But what I'm hearing from Spirit is you are very, very good at maintaining relationships. You are a good friend. You are a good sibling. You are a good spouse. Okay, you are. But you haven't even actually gotten really intimate with your own self. That's the truth of it. So these relationships actually aren't as intimate as you think they are. You aren't going as deep, I guess, as you can go emotionally, vulnerably. So Spirit's wanting you to just prioritize those non-romantic relationships at this time and practicing kind of like getting a little bit more vulnerable, exposing your scars and bruises a little bit more, expressing your love and your attachment to others as well, getting over that fear of rejection, letting go of that need for control in that area of your life. These things are all going to help you not get to a state of awareness because you're kind of already there, but trusting yourself, trusting that you are an incredibly intuitive, aware individual, and actually using those tools in that toolbox that God gave you. Okay? But I do hope that you enjoyed this reading. I want to thank you so much for being here, connecting with me, and I look forward to seeing you all for next week's reading. But I'm going to let you go here. Okay, my loves? Bye. Hi, Pile 4. Welcome to your little tarot therapy session. I hope you're somewhere that's quiet and peaceful where you can get comfy, maybe grab a snack and a drink. Make sure you're in nice comfy clothes as well, so we can really tune in to this reading for you. But I also want to say, for those of you who that's just not possible, you're in the midst of the chaos but still here seeking to know yourself, seeking to discover more about yourself, to heal, kudos to you, because I know that sometimes in life we just can't have things the way we want it, and we've got to keep pushing through in the midst of the mess, right? So congratulations to you for still being here. Now I want to start with the card topper you gravitated towards, which has the word community on it. And remember, I asked you when you chose your pile to kind of choose the word that described kind of why you were seeking out this therapy session. What was it that you felt was missing from your life that you couldn't quite overcome, couldn't quite achieve? So community, I think a lot of you could be here kind of feeling lonely, feeling isolated, not understanding how to even begin developing a sense of community in your life. Maybe you feel like you don't have the friends that you want, or friends around you in general. Maybe you're very detached from your own family, but there's just this sense of loneliness. I see a lot of you really idealizing times and eras in life where community was just a given. You know, for example, Native Americans that lived in small little Indian tribes, groups of 30, 40 people. They were born into a community where everyone was reliant on one another, where everyone interacted together. So there were many times in society and in Earth where community was just a given. You know, you helped others, others helped you. You were always around people. And I see you all kind of idolizing that different eras of different time periods where that was a given. So maybe tribes and Native American tribes or African tribes, and just that sense of community. It was something that didn't even have to be worked for, in contrast to today in society where we aren't just, community is not a given, not at all, is it? You know, on top of the fact that you can be born into a very dysfunctional, unhealthy, unloving family, even aside from that, many cultures and societies, it's like, okay, once you're 18, you're off on your own. Now you go create your own life, or maybe you create your nuclear family. A lot of societies value the nuclear family, spouse and your own children, but there's still not much of a connection with grandparents, with aunts and uncles, with cousins. It's not normal to like still live with all those people once you're an adult. Even making friends can be hard because it's not like you're just given friends for life when you're born. You've got to go out and find them. And then nowadays with technology that also further separates people. People kind of are looking at their phones more than ever these days. So I just feel that you are really missing and craving a sense of community around you in your life. There's a sense of loneliness and isolation that is troubling to you, and you kind of just don't know where to go. How do I create this community? Where do I go? Do I go into some sort of religion? Will that make me feel a sense of community? Do I in fact, some of you may even like read about certain cults, for example. That is the one thing that pulls people into cults, is that sense of community. As crazy as the beliefs may be, right? At least you feel like you have a community. That's why cults can become so large. Those are people who were craving that sense of community. And so I feel you even kind of looking at certain cults or groups of people that are kind of separated from society and kind of in their own little world. And it's like, man, I know that that's kind of messed up and weird what they believe, and I can never get myself to believe that, but damn, at least they've like got a sense of community there, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I kind of see you're dealing with, and we'll see what Spirit wants to say about that, what sort of advice Spirit has as far as creating a community for yourself. But let's start with a roll of the die, and then we'll get into the cards. All right, we have the South Node in Taurus in the first house. So the first house is the house of the self. It's the house of me, myself, I. South Node is our comfort zone. It's what we experience in the first half of our life. It's what we are very used to. Okay, so it makes sense with community being here that, yeah, South Node would be in the first house. This would be a feeling you've kind of always had and thought that, okay, maybe this is just how life is. I'm just kind of always on my own, whatever. No community, it's just me, myself, and I. No big deal, And Taurus is about our security, our sense of stability, our values, our finances. It kind of feels like for you, these were things that you had to develop and figure out on your own, where a lot of us are born into families that instill certain values in us, that maybe help us financially, that provide a sense of security and stability. Some of us aren't born into that, and you were the latter. So it's almost like you had to decide, what are my values? How do I want to manage my money? What sort of career path do I want to go into? It's like you didn't really have much of an influence, or like a mentor, I guess I should say. At least it didn't feel that way for you. You felt very much kind of on your own. But I see you being kind of tired of that. You're no longer feeling fulfilled with that. You don't want to just accept that anymore. You're really ready to find your tribe, I guess, is the best way to put it. Find your tribe, find your community, find where it is you belong. Whether that be that you need to move to a different place, or whatever that may mean for you. I see you being very open and willing to explore and to do that. Like, you want your tribe. So let's look at the tarot cards and see what they have to say. All right, we have spiritual growth of feelings, and it is upright. And from the interactive cards, we have this archetype, which looks to me like a boxer. Before they go into the ring, they always have on this robe. This is underground before they go up into the crowd to fight. And they're just kind of like on their own in the dark, trying to get in the zone for this fight, for this battle, like me against you. Who's going to win? Interesting. Okay, the spiritual growth of feelings card says, living an unconventional life, going down an unconventional path that is more fulfilling to you. Some examples that we have here on the cards is like open marriage or a swinger, progressive parenting, a political activist, standing up for what you believe regardless of what society thinks, being more authentic, seeking a philanthropic or unconventional career. And this card's associated with Uranus and Cancer in the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of our network groups, our larger friendship circles. So again, a sense of community. Now, the boxer on this card obviously doesn't have a sense of community. Their life is about me against you, you against me. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. That's just the industry and their career that they're in. So it feels like your life has felt like this a lot of times. I don't know. It feels like you were maybe conditioned from a young age that like there are enemies out there. Everyone's a potential enemy. Like you were conditioned to be very individualistic. And it brought out this archetype within you. But although you may have achieved high levels of success with that mindset, with that competitive spirit, competitive energy, pushing yourself to be the best, to outshine others, creating a good barrier between yourself and others, like not letting others get to you, not letting others encroach upon your boundaries, like knowing how to fight back. Those are all good qualities to have, but there's a time and a place for that sort of energy. It doesn't need to be in every part of our lives, or it does create kind of a lonely life. But it's so what you were conditioned to do that's why it's almost like, I am getting a message from spirit that I think without realizing it, you have isolated yourself in some ways, okay? I do see that your upbringing had a lot to do with it, but that upbringing and what it instilled in you, the values that you created through that has, yeah, it's almost like you're subconsciously or unconsciously doing things that further isolate you, that prevent you from creating this sense of community. Because I think you have this sense that, first of all, I think you are a very unique person. You're very different. And I think you recognize that about yourself. So you look, especially in the environment that you're in, like for a lot of you, you may need to move to a different country that has a culture that's more aligned with what you already value, or to a different city or town, because I do get a sense that like you kind of look at the people in your current environment and just feel so unlike any of them. You feel very unconventional compared to what the norm is in the society and the culture that you are surrounded by. So I do think that's important. There needs to be a move. You do need to find people who are more like-minded to you, seek out those groups. But then even once you get into those groups, it is going to be a learning curve for you to move from an individualistic mindset that you naturally have about a lot of things because of your culture that you were raised in, indoctrinated in, into a more community sort of mindset, one that's much less individualistic, okay? So that'll be something that you will learn. It's not, and so Spirit's wanting you, I guess, to be open to that, to be open to recognizing these competitive energies or this tendency to kind of view others as somewhat of an enemy, or people are out to get me, because that will keep you from, even when you do end up in the right community, it will keep you from fully establishing it or feeling that sense of community, okay, because of how the lens that you're looking at life through. But yeah, you guys are unconventional. That's for sure. Very unique. But there are people out there like you that have these same values, interests. So it is really about just moving yourself to find them. You know, doing some research, doing what you can to like truly locate people who think more like you, getting involved in those groups. You do have to put yourself out there. And so that's going to be new for you too, because I think you're very, very used to just dealing with yourself. That's your comfort zone, right? Okay, let's see the rest of the tarot cards. All right, we have the Queen of Wands. This is fire energy, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Page of Cups, water energy, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. And then we have the Moon. This is the Pisces card. Could be associated with Cancer as well, because the Moon does rule Cancer. Yep, the Moon is about a journey. It's a journey through either the subconscious, like what we experience when we do seek out therapy. We uncover a lot of monsters, a lot of inner demons, a lot of skeletons in the closet, and it's a scary process, but it's a journey we know we have to take to reach that level of healing and self-awareness and understanding. But it doesn't even have to just represent therapy. Sometimes the Moon represents a journey in our outside life, like a literal move or some situation we have to embark on, but one in which we can't see everything. It's kind of like we have to trust our gut. We have to just go with it. And it is going to feel scary. It's not maybe going to be enjoyable. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but we just keep pushing through because we're like, we know we need to take this journey. We've just got to do it. So that's what you're going to be doing in order to get to your community, basically, the community that you are after. It's going to be a dark, scary journey at night where the wolves are howling, where nothing but the moon is out. You can't see things clearly. You know, the trees may look like monsters to you. You've got to make sure you protect yourself from the nocturnal animals and things. But that's the only way to get to your tribe, your camp, is through this dark journey. Is it worth it to you? Are you going to embark on it? I think you should. I think it's worth it. You can do it. The Moon card also talks about how a lot of the fears on our journey aren't actual realities. It's more just the anxiety of the journey itself, not things that are actually there that are actually going to harm us, right? So that's something to remember too. This Queen of Wands, this feels like your energy, and this is Queen of Wands is a very social, extroverted energy. She likes to party, she likes to play, she likes to entertain people, she likes to make jokes, make people laugh. You really have a lot of this Queen of Wands energy within you, and unfortunately, she's not able to really be served at this time, right? Because you haven't found the people that you want to connect with. But another message that I'm getting is, even though, yes, I do think Spirit wants you to find your quote unquote tribe, wants you to find the people that are more like you, you can actually feel a sense of community even with people who aren't quite like you. So I guess what Spirit's trying to say is, yes, you should probably move or enroll in some groups or organizations that feel more like, you, what you like and enjoy. But you need to try and focus on creating this feeling and sense of community even with the people already in your environment. Not searching for this idealized level of perfection of, I need to only connect with the people who feel and think exactly like me. No, you can actually have a lot of fun, party with a lot of people who are nothing like you, who don't have the same values as you. Like, it's totally possible. So don't isolate yourself even further than you need to just because you have this long list, I guess, of requirements that people need to meet in terms of their personality or whatever in order to feel connected with them. Does that make sense? Like, ideally, we need to be in an environment that feels very much like us. Absolutely, 100%. But maybe you're in a situation where you can't move right now, right? What if it's like, well, Addison, I literally can't move. So how am I going to create this sense of community? What Spirit's saying is, in the meantime, you can start creating it with the people around you. You don't need to have people just like you. Maybe you're meant to be the person that is kind of unique, unconventional, and out there in comparison with everything around you. But that doesn't mean that you can't have fun with others, that you can't connect with others, that you can't joke around with others, that you can't have some fun parties with the people who are right around you. Start putting yourself out there. And I also see that with the Page of Cups, because you notice the page, he has this fish sticking out of his cup that's kind of like caught him off guard. Like, oh my gosh, what? Like, he's almost surprised, but in like a pleasant way. Like, how cute. And so I actually do see that in the near future, once you start doing this, like, okay, I can't move right now. I'll research, start looking where I want to go. But for the meantime, I've got to get out of this state of loneliness. I do see that when you do that and you start connecting with the community you already have, the people around you, you're going to be quite pleasantly surprised at the emotional connection you are able to develop with people that you thought you had nothing in common with. Like, there was no way you were going to enjoy their company. You are going to be surprised by this. And what's beautiful about what Spirit's telling you is that once you learn this, once you kind of get over this hump or this idea that there's one specific tribe out there for you only, and that's what you need to find in order to feel no longer lonely. Once you do what Spirit's telling you, which is start creating community with the people around you, you are never going to feel a sense of loneliness or a lack of community ever again. Because what Spirit's trying to teach you is how to create that sense of community wherever you are, okay? You are a very likable person. You are unique. You are quirky. You are unconventional. There is something special and odd about you. There may not be a whole group of people just like you, navigated into one specific spot. You may be one of very few that are meant to kind of spread out over the earth and kind of bring this lighthearted, joyful, unique energy to the communities that you incarnated into, and always be kind of like the odd one out, a little bit different. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you weren't supposed to be a part of that community. Connect with others. You should not, you're not meant to feel lonely. Okay, but yeah, I feel like it's time to start kind of giving some people a chance that you would normally be like, no, they're nothing like me. There's no way. Start trying to push yourself out of that comfort zone and try and create a connection with them beyond that. Sometimes just a glass of wine, will do all that needs to be done to help you connect with someone that you didn't think you had anything in common with. Or, a lot of times you find out that maybe we have nothing in common value-wise, but this person really likes to paint. I like to paint. Painting's fun. Or maybe they could teach me to paint. I've always wanted to learn. And then, that's someone that you go and paint with, do watercolors with. Like, there's always something you can find in common or fun to do with someone, no matter how different they are from you. And maybe for some of you, your community is meant to be a little bit more kind of spread out and sprinkled, not be this group of people where everyone's connected to one another, but like you have a friend over here and you have a friend over there and one over here. Everyone's spread out and not connected, but the common denominator is you. And so you go to bed at night feeling that sense of belonging because you have all these different people from all these different walks of life and you have a connection with each one of them. And that could be your sense of community. But let's look at some of the other cards, see what else Spirit has to say. from the surrender card, we have surrender to success. And from the Mona Lisa deck, we have a healthy goals card and kind of the negative subconscious phrase playing throughout your mind says, things should be different. Life is unfair. Okay, so that's a negative subconscious belief. Spirit wants you to replace it with, I now observe my life from a broad, objective perspective so I can give birth to healthier relationship and career situations. Interesting. So for some of you, this sense of community could be very much, well, not just even about friendships, but about career, feeling very much like the odd one out in the career sector that you've gone into and the company that you work at. Maybe there's something you're very passionate about doing and you always expected that, oh, I'm sure that I'll make friends in the industry because we all have this in common, but you're in the industry and you kind of feel like you can't connect with anyone. It feels very much like high school all over again where there's little cliques and you just don't get it. And so, yeah, it could be affecting your career as well. Let me read the surrender to success card. It says, you are ready to experience abundance. Don't look back at previous roadblocks or difficulties. Leap into an exciting new world of possibilities, which I see that in the Page of Cups with the fish popping out of the cup. And if you look at the image of the card, it also looks like a journey, just like the moon, okay? So it's time to kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone in terms of your relationships with other people. And I think at the root of it really is this, there's some sort of competitive or individualistic belief system that was indoctrinated into you. And I think it's not something you're really, really aware of, but you do kind of view other people as potential adversaries that you need to protect and guard yourself from, okay? And so that creates a wall, a blockage between true community-like connection with them, all right? So, yeah, that's something that Spirit really wants you to, I don't think it's something you'll deal with first. It's more like start putting yourself out there, start inviting people to certain things, saying yes to the invite, start enroll yourself like in some sort of random class, just to kind of meet people and go up to people and be like, hey, I'm new, my name's so-and-so, like, do you want to go out and get a drink sometime afterwards? Or I'm new to the area. Like, really, I know it's embarrassing and awkward, like, I hate having to do stuff like that, but sometimes we just have to kind of be our own parent and be like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what we're trying out. We're sick of being lonely. We want a community, and just force yourself to do it. Okay, let's look at the last couple cards. We have a Create Boundaries card and Understanding. Beautiful. This, to me, is like a completely opposite energy from the boxer here. This woman, look how her arms are placed. Oh, my thing's about to die. Her arms are wide open into the air like this. This is like, I'm being vulnerable, I'm open, right? I'm receptive. And then the boxer, he's like this. He's guarded, he's not open, he's maybe kind of wary, okay? So this is going to be the shift in energy that Spirit is asking of you, to come from a place of understanding with others, to come from a place of, maybe their beliefs are totally different than mine, their interests are totally different than mine, but maybe not like looking down on that, maybe understanding like why they have that belief system, what kind of family or environment were they raised in, what kind of personality do they have, like being understanding like everyone is kind of different. Everyone was indoctrinated into certain values and things based on their upbringing. Like everyone has different beliefs, different interests, and not looking down on that or like feeling kind of like, I don't want to associate with that. You know what I mean? Being more open. Because I know it can, and it could even be from a place of, for example, you may have been the one who was very much judged and like, when you were younger, because you were the odd one, you were the unique one. People looked down on that. And so what may have happened is you may have taken those bullies from your life, and now when you meet someone that has maybe the same interests as those bullies did, dresses the same way as those bullies did, likes the same music as those bullies did, you're already like in your little boxer robe, like blocked off. I don't want anything to do with that person. Kind of like, how whenever people are choosing baby names, and let's say, for example, your husband's like, why don't we name the baby girl Kelly? And you're like, oh, no, there was a Kelly in my high school who was awful. I couldn't stand her. I'm not naming my kid Kelly. And it's like, it wasn't actually the name's fault that, you know what I mean? But we associate it with it. It's like now we hate the name Kelly because we associate it with that girl in high school that we didn't like. So it feels like there may be something like that that you're doing here in your adult life based on your relationships from the past. You know, maybe people who like country music, you don't want to interact with them because, man, the popular kids at my high school that were mean to me were all, you know, cowgirls and cowboys that were into country music. So I don't want anything to do with those people. But you're kind of like doing this blanket association. You're blocking yourself off, I guess, from a lot of really great people because of these superficial sort of characteristics and traits. And Spirit's wanting to help you get out of this sense of loneliness and isolation. But it is something that it's almost like you're accidentally doing it to yourself in a lot of ways. There's actually opportunities all around you for this sense of community. It's going to require some courage, okay? You're going to have to let down that wall of pride, be willing to maybe be embarrassed a bit at times because you're going to really have to put yourself out there, but you will be pleasantly surprised. And I see a future for you of a lot of connection, entertainment with others, and really what's really cool is you have the potential to have friends from all walks of life, all backgrounds, okay? Because you are a type of person that people, they like your uniqueness, your oddity, your unconventional way of thinking. So what you're really meant for actually in your adult life is to have friends from every type of background, every type of walk of life, maybe many different cultures, all different races, all different income groups. Like I'm talking, you have the potential to have all sorts of friends, okay, that don't just fall into one little community. They all live here in this one place and they all think the same way, okay? That's really what Spirit's trying to give you. But like this surrender to success says, there's some sort of resistance to this abundance based on previous roadblocks or difficulties. Okay, so you're connecting the dots from your past and yanking it over into your future. But this card says you're supposed to leap into an exciting new world of possibilities. Wash away those prejudices, those internal judgments from the past. Be like a blank book. Look at everyone like a blank canvas, you know, and really try and open your mind fully and completely when it comes to, I don't know, the snap judgments or stereotypes you may have of certain people. You know, try and like start all over again. Try it all again. And then this create boundaries card here, I do feel that there is like a relationship or two in your life that's really not healthy. It almost feels like you settled for it because you're like, well, I'm so different and it's so hard to find people that I click with that I've got to at least hold on to like the ones that I have, even if they're not fulfilling, even if they're not healthy for me, even if, and it could even be, for some of you, this relationship may not even be with a person. It could be with certain habits, certain substances, okay? So Spirit's wanting you to kind of create boundaries between those sort of either unhealthy habits or substances that help you feel that sense of community, or maybe those unhealthy relationships with a certain few people that help you feel that sense of community. Those things are keeping you in this comfort zone, this south node of the first house. It's not until you let those things go that you're finally going to have kind of the energy and stamina and curiosity to leap forward, put yourself out there and go into something new, okay? Community absolutely can be yours, all right? It is meant for you, okay? It's all around you. Start looking for those opportunities and cutting away the things that are standing in the way from you and this new world of possibilities, all right? I love you guys so much. I want to thank you for coming to this tarot therapy session. I had a lot of fun with you. And I would love to connect with you down in the comments, okay? You've always got a little community over here at Higher Self Tarot. I always see the same people down in the comments section. We really enjoy chit-chatting, having good conversations. So if anything, you've got a community here, but you are meant for so much more than even that. Something more than just what's online, what's digital, right? Something in person, and you're going to have a lot of friendships in your future as soon as you start pushing yourself out of that comfort zone. Okay, I love you guys so much. I will see you for next week's Pick a Card reading. Bye, my loves. Hey Group 5, welcome to your reading. I hope you're somewhere comfy, relaxing. It's a nice loose warm clothes or comfy clothes with a good drink and a good snack nearby, so we can really get deep into this tarot therapy session. But if it's not possible for you to do that and you're just in some sort of crazy environment and still here, still pushing through, I want to congratulate you on that and say kudos to you, because it is so true that sometimes in life it's like we just can't find the peace and quiet, but we've still got to keep pushing forward on our journey of self-awareness, self-discovery, and healing. It is much more difficult, of course, though, so you guys are doing awesome. I want to start by taking a look at the card topper you all gravitated towards, which has the word creativity on it. And remember, when I asked you to choose your pile, I said choose the word that most embodies kind of why you're coming to this therapy session, what it is that's feeling kind of blocked off to you and why. So for you, it's creativity. So there could be, it kind of feels like your life may feel quite lackluster. You may feel like, you know, you have so many underdeveloped talents, but there's not enough time, or that you just aren't a creative person, or maybe people tell you that you seem really creative, but you feel like you're not, and you just want more time in your life to really be able to explore your creativity, create what it is that you are after. Some of you may be trying to create life, literally, like through a pregnancy, and maybe you're struggling with that, the idea of it, or just, you know, having fertility issues, could be something like that. Or it could be about manifestation, which requires creativity or spell work. We have to really believe that we have the power to create before we can actually create. And some of you may be in creative industries and just feel a complete blockage. You know, maybe you're trying to write a book or write a song and you're just like, it's all absolute shit. Why can't I create? So we'll see as we get further into the cards, but I want to start by rolling the die real quick. All right, we have Saturn in Aquarius in the 4th house. So the 4th house is our childhood, our home, our private life, like home and family. It is opposite of the 10th house. 10th house is like career point. That's the legacy that we're leaving behind. And in astrology, astrologers often talk about this axis, the 4th and 10th house axis, like a tree, okay? So the 10th house is the fruits of the tree. That's what people are going to see, you know, when they look at your tree. They're looking at the fruits that grew. They're going to try and taste the fruits and say, oh my gosh, it was so amazing, this tree that they grew. It's beautiful, right? Whereas the 4th house are the roots of the tree. That's the part that no one really sees. It's underneath the surface. But the reality is that without good roots, that tree is never going to produce fruit. It's going to be an ugly tree, probably not going to survive, right? So in order to reach the legacy that we're after, we have to start at the roots. We have to make sure we are constantly watering those roots, that they are not dry, that they are cared for. And that's going to be a constant thing, right? So it feels like with your creativity, you're kind of really focused on the output, the results, where you want to end up, but not tending to kind of what it takes to actually foster that, to actually get to where it is you're wanting to go. So like, for example, maybe you're really not understanding why you're creative. You want to be creative. Let's say you're a writer, okay, an author, for example. You're trying to write this book. It's not coming out right. What Spirit's saying in this situation is, well, of course you're not writing well. Like, you have not been allowing yourself to sleep. You've been running off of 3 hours of sleep a night. Your sleep schedule's totally whacked. Or look at the environment you're in. Like, things are chaotic and loud and crazy at your house. Things are messy and disorganized, that you don't have, your mind isn't relaxed enough to be able to create. You've got to start with these sort of mundane, sort of day-to-day things in order to foster this creativity that you're after. So that's kind of the message that Spirit's bringing here. And we do have Saturn in Aquarius that came up in the die. And Saturn is about discipline, you know, really being disciplined, pushing through. Saturn's very much like, let's make a schedule. Saturn is going to set boundaries where they need to be set. Like, no, I am going to bed at 10 o'clock because I know that I need 8 hours of sleep to be productive during the day. Saturn helps us do those sorts of things. It's very, very disciplined. And Aquarius is about emotional detachment. It's about our larger friendship groups. It's also about communication. It's very scientific minded. It's not real emotional, okay? So I feel like some of you are trying to, what Spirit's saying is your creativity is kind of feeling blocked at this time. And part of that has to do with the structure, discipline, and organization that's needed with some of these basic things that I was touching on. But some of it is also because you're solely focused on the emotional part of the creativity and not really focusing or incorporating the more mental aspects of it, okay? I hope that makes sense. Some of you are kind of creating fully with the emotions, and you're not happy with the results of it because it doesn't have this meticulous Aquarius energy. Well, Aquarius energy isn't meticulous, it's very mental. There's certain rules that do need to be followed within creativity in order for you to be happy with it, I guess I should say. Like, for example, if you, that's why, for example, like painters or even authors, book writers, they go to college for these things, right? The college part of it is the mental Aquarius part. That's where they're learning the rules, the structure. Like, a good story has a good plot. This is how you develop characters. This is the length that chapters should be. This is how, that's all very mental, right? It feels very uncreative. When you're going to college and learning like how to be a good author, language, developing vocabulary, none of that's creative at all. But then once you set that foundation, that Aquarius foundation of now I understand the rules, how things need to be structured, then you bring that in together with the emotional part of the creativity, and it creates a book that wins awards, that everyone wants to read, a book that you're proud of, right? Okay, that's what's not being done. So for some of you, you are seeking out this creative path, but neglecting the educational part of it. Like, I feel like for some of you, whatever it is you're after career-wise, you do, or it is recommended by Spirit to take a course on it, go to college for it, like learn the structural, foundational, more mental, mundane aspects of how to do it. And then you're going to see your results completely transform from there. And then you're going to be really, really pleased with what it is that you create, what it is that you do. If it's, for example, that you are trying to get pregnant and you're having fertility issues, what I see with Saturn in Aquarius is there are some solutions. It may require you actually going and getting some examinations, going to the doctor, changing a diet, doing like all these scientific mental things, like investigating into it, so that the emotional part can be combined with it and the creation can be made, new life can be made, okay? So Saturn actually rules Aquarius, but yeah, the fourth house, that's all about the roots, okay? So there's something where you need to start incorporating a more scientific approach, a more educational approach, because then when you go into your creative space, you're going to have rules to follow in order to get the results that you want. The reason Spirit's saying that you're not happy with your results is because there are no boundaries with it. There's no deep knowledge behind it. There's no rules being set or followed with it. And so once you produce whatever it is you're trying to go after, you look at it and you're really unhappy with it. Like, oh, it looks like crap, but I don't know why. I don't like it, but I don't know why. So we'll get deeper into this as we go through the rest of the cards. I think I want to look into the tarot now so we can kind of expand on this. Okay, we have level 15, the Matrix, or this is the red pill in the Matrix because the card is reversed. And then we have this archetype card, which she's like the woman, she looks like maybe a judge or like a nun that works at a Catholic school. She's got all these rules and she looks very stern and very judgy. This is a very Saturn type of energy for sure. And on this list, it says, brush your teeth, comb your hair, wash your hands, stand up straight, be polite, eat your vegetables. Like, whoo, very Saturnian energy. Something else I'm seeing from this card is, yeah, there's a resistance. You have this subconscious resistance towards rules, discipline, structure because of something negative that you've experienced with it in childhood. Like, people who are so disciplined, they're so stuffy. Like, no, I want to be free and open, wild and creative, okay? You had some sort of figure, like maybe a parental figure in childhood, or maybe it was the type of school environment you went to. I don't know, something really, really turned you off to like people who just really want to follow all the rules. Like you developed this idea that completely stifles creativity. That's the way to put it, right? Okay, yes, exactly. Thank you, Spirit. You developed this belief that strict rules and regulations completely stifle creativity. Creativity cannot blossom in that environment. And while that is true to an extent, even creativity needs a certain level of discipline, knowledge, like education, study. Like, it does need a certain level of kind of mundane boringness to it to develop a good foundation for that creativity to blossom on. So yes, when the discipline goes to an extreme, there's no room to grow, and yeah, then the creativity is dead. But Good creativity, happy creativity, one where you're really pleased with your results, has a level of structure, discipline, and knowledge behind it. That's why, for example, if you, me and my mom like to do watercolors sometimes, and I don't have any like artistic background. And so what we'll usually do is like pull up a watercolor tutorial on YouTube, and we'll have an actual teacher teach us step by step how to do it, why you hold the brush this way, why you mix the colors this way. So we're learning and we're being guided. It's a form of discipline, right? It's a form of education, right? If I were to just sit down and be like, I don't know anything about watercolor, but I just want this to be a really free experience and just see what I can do with it. I'm not going to take any direction. I'm just going to see where my heart takes me, where my emotions flow, which I've done many times before, by the way. I'd end up with something that I was really unhappy with because I hadn't developed the skills to create what it is I'm after. So that is really the issue here. It's time to let go of this subconscious belief that structure and discipline stifles creativity, is boring, is not good for growth, is like a bad thing, all right? Because that's not the case. To an extreme, yes. But we need Saturn, this planet of discipline, really in every area of our lives. We have to have a level of discipline. Knowledge is always good, like learning something, establishing rules and boundaries within any sort of craft is an important part of it. Kind of like even with tarot, what I do with tarot reading is it's a very creative field, yes. Because to a certain extent, I've got to, by myself, kind of connect the dots of the tarot cards and listen to spirit and speak to you what I think needs to be spoken. But I had to really study the tarot cards before I ever started reading them. I got books, long books, and just read word for word. Oh, this is, each of the cards represents one of the 4 elements. This one represents this astrology sign. When this card comes up, it signifies this. The image in the card represents this. I needed that to create some boundaries and some knowledge and some discipline behind the craft. And now I'm so familiar with it that it does feel like a fully creative process. As I flip open the cards, it just starts to flow. It comes naturally. But I had to set that level of foundation, those roots. I had to grow those roots. So that's what Spirit is wanting you to do in this situation that you came here for with your creativity. You do have to do the boring, studying, learning, discipline, so that you can create an environment, a vessel for your creativity. Okay, let's read this matrix card, the red pill. So it's in reversed. It says, healed, letting go of unhealthy crutches, leaving a toxic situation, no longer allowing oneself to be controlled or dominated by toxicity. This card's associated with the South Node in Capricorn. It also says, not bad, benign, released, overcome, and empowered. That's beautiful. So it feels like, yes, this woman here, this judgy, domineering, strict woman, I do feel that you had some sort of situation in your life that you successfully broke away from this. Some of you, I think, maybe went to like a really strict Catholic school or a boarding school or had super overbearing parents, or maybe it was a relationship, an abusive, controlling relationship. It's something that you endured for like a really long time. And I do see with that card that we just read that you did successfully break away from that environment. That is amazing. Like, good for you. That's exactly what you needed to do. You did not deserve to, that environment definitely did not foster your creativity. You were right there, and it was good for you to get away. But what Spirit's saying is you got away successfully, and then you kind of decided that, like, I'm not going to be anything like these people. I don't want it to relive that environment ever again. So I'm rejecting everything that is similar to that environment. So forget about the rules, forget about the structure, forget about discipline, forget about like everything that you associated with this harshness and this stifling environment you wanted to escape and reject. Spirit's now feeling that you're ready to try and create a balance between the two, because now you've gone off to the opposite extreme, okay? And the opposite extreme is also actually stifling for your creativity, is what they're saying. Just as a super strict, disciplined environment with no room to move or grow or expand stifles creativity, so does a completely chaotic, whatever, constant go with the flow, no need to learn, no need to practice, no need to discipline, no consequences needed. That environment also really, really stifles creativity. Creativity comes from this beautiful balance of the two. Just like when we create a new life, what is a pregnancy? What is a baby? A baby is a blend, a perfect harmonious blend of a divine masculine energy and a divine feminine energy. And when they are fully in balance and union and connected, new life is created. It's a conjunction, is what it is. All right? And that's what Spirit's trying to lead you towards understanding. Creativity, oh, my phone's about to die. Creativity, creating new life, creating something new, requires that balance of the open, the free, the growth, and the discipline, the structure, the learning, the rules. It has to be in balance, okay? That's kind of the missing link, I guess, that you're dealing with here. And this could be seeping into, like, we have the fourth house. If you've got kids, maybe it's your parenting style with your own children. Maybe it's just the environment of your home in general, your private life, or it could also be related to career. It could be affecting all of these areas, to be honest. And so Spirit's like, it's time to make that balance, okay, so that your life can really blossom, bloom, grow, so that you can create, establish a legacy, be proud of the results of what you're putting out into the world. Because, for example, if you had super strict, domineering parents like who were borderline abusive, no, you don't want to raise your own kids that way, right? But then let's say, so you take this fully loving approach with your kids where, like, there's really no consequences, or there's no true structure, there's no discipline, like everything's just free and tra-la-la and whatever, like you don't need to pick up after yourself. The results of that are probably going to be kids who probably aren't very respectful to you or to others, and are probably going to have a hard time achieving success in their own life, because success does require discipline. They're not going to understand boundaries in relationships because they grew up in an environment with no boundaries. So you're not going to like, even if this reading is, maybe you came here for creativity in like work life, but I feel like Spirit's wanting to talk about also the home life, your kids, the results of what you're doing. And fostering this creativity, but also thinking about the results of it. Getting the results that you're after is going to require this balance that I've been talking about. Okay, let's look at the surrender deck. We have surrender to your intuition. It says, tune into your inner voice. Be aware of any gut feelings, flashes, knowings, or aha moments that come through to guide you. And then from the Mona Lisa deck, we have a healthy relationships card. So the negative subconscious phrase says, if I could only say it the right way, they would agree with me. Spirit wants you to replace that with, there are multiple ways to look at any situation. So the first one says, if I could only say it the right way, they would agree with me. The opposite is, there are multiple ways to look at any situation. That's interesting, because it seems like you grew up in a really, like I said, some sort of strict environment in a sense, that you felt stifled you. It felt a bit harsh. And so you had this desire to like embody the complete opposite of that. But what I'm seeing in this card is that what you don't realize is part of that harshness, that strictness, that discipline that your parents or the authority figures had, which was very much my way or the highway. You actually kind of soaked that up a little in your personal relationships. To where you have a hard time. For you, it's, I mean, obviously you're not harsh in it like your parents were, but to some extent, it's like you want things a certain way. There is kind of this need for control. I guess that's the way I'll put it. Subconscious or deep down within you, to where you want things to turn out, I guess, the way you had decided. And so you're constantly trying to convince people to your side, convince people to agree with you, convince people that it has to be done this way, and getting upset when they continue to disagree, when you don't quite convince them. You keep thinking, well, if I could just say it the right way, they would agree with me. And the reality is, sometimes people just aren't going to agree with you. Like, there are multiple ways to look at any situation. So you've got to let go of this need to control your environment and the people around you in terms of their thoughts, their opinions, because we don't realize is you're accidentally expressing that same energy that you hated as a kid onto others, okay? Even in your, let's say, for example, it has to do with your, I just want everything to be free, easygoing, just whatever, no rules, whatever, like maybe at home. Maybe there's people who are like, maybe you need to be a little bit more disciplined or structured, and then you find yourself fighting back with them. No, I shouldn't be that way, because remember how abusive it was at home, or that was abuse, or that was traumatizing, and you're expecting that if you keep reminding them or saying it in the right way, that person's going to be like, you know what, yeah, now I get it. Now that you put it that way, you are absolutely right. I think that's what you're hoping for. I'll just keep saying it a certain way until they agree with me. But really, like, you may say it 100 different ways, and that person just isn't going to agree with you. They're going to think that you're doing it wrong, and that's okay. because there are multiple different ways to look at any situation. So you grew up in you had some people in your environment as a child who were very controlling, and you hated that, but at the same time, you're accidentally being the same way in your own life, in your relationships, or maybe just in the way that you structure your day-to-day life, the certain rules that you follow, or the paranoias that you have, the anxieties that you have. Paranoia and anxiety, that's all about like this need for control, constantly feeling a lack of control and trying to get that control, right? So there are some issues here that have transferred from childhood into adulthood that have to do with control, that are stifling the creativity around you, the flow that's around you. It's like, even though you're so opposite of your own parents, you still feel stifled, right? And so it's like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm doing things the right way. I'm being very opposite of my childhood environment, but yet I still feel stifled. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like the world is closing in on me. I feel like I can't, grow and move. Like, I'm almost like I'm feeling like panic attacks. And it's because of this, something to do with kind of control and trying to maintain control in your environment. And it's stifling you. So we have the surrender to your intuition card. It says tune into your inner voice. I think that's a great recommendation from Spirit, because I do feel like there's something in you that kind of does feel like people need to agree with me in order for me to feel okay about my own decision. Okay. It's like you don't have a real strong connection with your own inner voice. And here's the thing. Sometimes our inner voice actually tells us we're wrong about something. That's the truth. A really good inner voice and a connection with our inner voice will sometimes be like, yeah, actually, I think you need to try this out. Or I think this person might be right about the advice they're giving you. I think they may be right. And then sometimes our inner voice, is going to say, nope, you're doing the right thing. We need to go in this direction. It's so important for us to have a good relationship with that inner voice so that we aren't in panic mode when someone doesn't approve of our decision, or that we aren't in defensive mode when someone disagrees with us, feeling like we've got to convince them, feeling like somehow their opinion is going to affect our reality. Or there's some sort of like, you guys may suffer with panic attacks. I definitely feel that. And it has to do with this control thing that needs to be healed here. So Spirit's wanting you to really tune into your inner voice. Start developing a relationship with the deepest and wisest part of you, with your higher self, essentially, so that you can feel grounded, rooted, at ease, okay? So that you can help yourself make decisions. When you make a good decision, there shouldn't be a feeling of anxiety that comes along with it. There should be a sense of peace. And that peace comes from like knowing that you've guided yourself to the right decision. If you are feeling a sense of anxiety after a decision, it's because there's some sort of doubt there. There's something trying to speak to you. There's something that doesn't feel right. So it's time to start listening to that, and to also heal this, like I said, this sort of negative relationship that you have with discipline. And sometimes discipline does need to be harsh. Sometimes we got to be harsh with ourselves and draw the line, right? There's some sort of toxic relationship that you have with your past in regards to what Saturn represents. And some of you could be Capricorns or have Aquarius or Capricorn in your chart for sure. Yeah, I definitely feel that. And so it's very important with the fact that for those of you who are Saturn-ruled signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, Saturn is the ruler of your chart. You've got to develop a healthy relationship with that Saturn energy. Start reading about it, start understanding, and start healing this, okay? It is okay to embrace discipline. You've got to balance it. It's about the balance. All right, let's look at the other cards. Okay, we have show self-respect, as well as High Priestess of Earth. That's Capricorn energy, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. And High Priestess of Air. This is air energy, Gemini, Libra, Sagittarius. It's crazy because creativity, this word is often associated with emotion, like I talked about. The emotional signs are fire signs and water signs. Those are associated with emotions. Fire signs are very passionate. They can have a fiery temper, like they're excited individuals. It's those fiery emotions. And then the water signs are more about, just the feelings overall. And that's associated with creativity. But here in these two cards, Spirit's saying balance, right? It's time to focus on that air energy. That's Aquarius, that scientific knowledge, learning, emotionally detached energy. And we have High Priestess of Earth, that's Saturn energy, that's Capricorn energy, being practical, being grounded, being disciplined, setting a foundation, watering those roots so that your life can blossom and bloom the way that it needs to. Your tree needs that good soil. It needs the soil to be tended to. It needs the weeds to be pulled. It needs you to be disciplined with how often you're watering it, when you are watering it, in order for it to produce the fruit that you want it to. If you just kind of be like, I just want the tree to feel free and just grow whichever way it needs to, and you don't tend to it or take care of it, the tree's not going to grow. You're not going to have a beautiful tree for the world to see. And so it's time to focus on more of the mental and logical, as well as practical and grounded advice and energy coming into your life. And then we have the show self-respect card. What does it mean to show self-respect? A person who has a lot of self-respect is a person that has a level of discipline, that sets boundaries with itself and others, that draws the line when someone mistreats it, that doesn't allow people to walk all over it, that doesn't allow themselves to walk all over themselves. I show self-respect by keeping tabs on what I eat, or making sure that I exercise, or standing up for myself when someone is disrespectful to me, setting boundaries, cutting people out of my life that are toxic, not allowing myself to be talked crap about by others, not talking crap about myself even. That's me showing self-respect. And all those things that I listed are things that require what? Discipline, structure, organization, determination. Okay, so it feels like you felt, it's so crazy, the irony of it, right? Because I can see in your younger environment that you felt incredibly disrespected by the people around you, by the authority figures around you. You felt incredibly disrespected, and you couldn't wait to kind of break away and enter into a life in which you were going to be surrounded by people that respected you, right? So you felt this lack of respect as a child, and now that you are an adult and you've gone in the opposite extreme, you are also still lacking in self-respect. You are no longer respecting yourself. When you were younger, it was maybe the parents, the authority figures not respecting you. Now that you're older, it's you not respecting yourself. And what happens when we don't respect ourselves? Others don't respect us either. If we don't know how to respect ourselves, how in the hell are we going to demand others to respect us? We don't even know how. So what's happening now in adulthood is you are not showing yourself respect, and others in your environment aren't either, whether it be your children, your spouse, your siblings, your partner, your coworkers. You've got to start embracing that sense of discipline and structure in the way that you parent the people that are under you. Are you above people at work? Are you a parent with children? Or the way that you parent yourself, okay? And that's really going to be kind of what blossoms your creativity, your creative flow. Okay, let's look at the tarot cards here. We've got 5 of Pentacles and Queen of Pentacles. My God, look at all this earth energy. So more Capricorn energy or Taurus, Virgo. And of course, 5 of Pentacles is the same. Yeah, look at that. In this card, these people are poor, they are homeless, they feel rejected, abandoned, all on their own. Definitely no sense of structure, stability, or foundation in their lives. They're out in the cold. But then look what they transform into over time. Queen of Pentacles, on her throne, feeling abundant. I mean, you can guarantee the Queen of Pentacles, the way she takes care of her castle, the way she parents her children, the way she treats the subordinates beneath her, the people who work for the kingdom, you can bet it is with discipline and structure. You can bet that there are times where she is not concerned with making sure everyone feels good. If someone disrespects her, there will be consequences. And it's not going to be something where, she's being all huggy and nice and just wanting to get them to understand. And maybe if I just talk to you and let you know how much it hurt me, you won't do this again. No, she's going to set those consequences and boundaries. She's a disciplined queen. She has rules for herself as well as for others. And when others don't follow them, they receive consequences. And when she doesn't follow them, she's disciplined enough to give herself consequences, to deal with the consequences of that. So this is something you're kind of navigating through at the moment, but it does all start with this association that you have with kind of overbearing parents or this harshness in your childhood. Okay, let's look at what words want to come out of the bowl for you. Okay, first one says overachiever. Second one says laid back. And then we have happy and romantic. Oh, beautiful. That's so sweet. I love the happy and the romance. Yeah, I see that. So the overachiever and the laid back, this is where the anxiety, the panic attacks, the obsession or worry about like control or lack of control comes from. Well, it comes from a lot of things, but I see that there's this major swing that you have between being very, very laid back, hands off, just whatever, screw it, just let whatever come out, everything's just going to flow, I'm not going to try and control it, to the other side of the swing of overachiever. I need this to be perfect. I'm pushing myself to the highest of standards. It's like this constant, massive swing. It's almost like a life where like someone is constantly dehydrating themselves. Like for days, they drink no water. And then just when they're like about to die of thirst, they drink a whole gallon of water. And then they go back to not drinking any water. And then right before things are about to get serious, chugging a ton of water. Think about how miserable that life must feel. Because there's no balance and harmony. It's like two total extremes, okay? And so Spirit's wanting to help you bring these extremes into a union of being able to achieve what it is you want to achieve, and being open-minded and laid back enough, but also being disciplined and striving after what you want. It's a balance that you're working through. It looks like the cure to a lot of what you're feeling right now will be in you kind of doing some things that bring you happiness and joy, doing some things for the sake of romance and love. Perhaps some of you are ready for a new romantic relationship, or maybe you're in one and you need to focus on enjoying that, making sure that you are focusing on the love, the unconditional love, the romance, the passion in that relationship, or bringing that back to life if it's in a bit of a rut. Those things are really, really going to help you at this time as you heal all of this. But yeah, you guys feel like very creative people who can really build a legacy for themselves. A lot of Capricorn, Saturn sort of energy here. Once you get a good balance down with the discipline and the creative side, like, wow, I just see a lot of amazing, beautiful, creative endeavors and things that people are in awe of when they're like, you built that? Holy crap, you made this? Oh my God. You have the ability to do that. So it's time to kind of like get a well-oiled machine going here with your life, really creating a life that serves you and isn't working against you. You should not be having panic attacks. You should not be feeling anxious. You should not be feeling stressed all the time. And you also shouldn't be unhappy with the results of your creative endeavors. Okay, so anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this reading. I want to thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed connecting with you all, and I look forward to seeing you for next week's reading. Leave a comment down below if you'd like, and I will chit chat with you down there. But if not, I'll see you here in about 7 days. Love you guys. Hey Pile 6, welcome to your reading, to your tarot therapy session. I hope you're somewhere that's quiet, peaceful. Maybe you're in some comfy clothes, got a good snack or a drink nearby so you can really soak in this reading. But for those of you who are here in the midst of a very chaotic environment where there is just no peace, no solace around you, kudos to you for still being here, for still doing what needs to be done for your own growth, your own self-discovery, despite the circumstances. Because I know that's really, really tough. But hopefully as you listen to my voice and soak in this message, you can at least leave this reading with a bit of inner peace, even if your outside world isn't peaceful. So I want to start by taking a look at the card topper you all gravitated towards, which is the word growth. And remember, when I told you to choose your toppers, I said choose the word that most describes kind of what's feeling blocked for you, why you are seeking out this therapy session. And you guys gravitated towards growth. So if you chose this pile, it's likely that you are feeling very stagnated in life. Maybe the things that you're trying to achieve, you just feel like you're failing and failing over and over again. Maybe you've just completely given up in a sense and you're like, I just feel like I'm not capable. Everything's so the same. I need something new. I need to grow. I need to expand. But why can't I make it happen? Why does it not seem possible for me? And so we will explore this as we get into the reading and see what, Spirit recommends for you. So let's take a roll of the astrological die. All right, we have Pluto in Virgo in the 7th house. So 7th house is about marriage or just any of our long-term one-on-one relationships, our one-on-one relationship with a particular sibling, a certain parent, a certain friend, a certain business partner, but just those one-on-one relationships. And so maybe that's where you are really feeling this lack of growth. Maybe you don't feel like your relationships are really expanding in the way that they need to. They just feel very stagnated. Pluto is the planet of transformation, of death and transformation. It kind of explodes the area where it's at so that you can kind of rise from the ashes, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, become something totally new. It does require a level of surrendering, though, in order for this to happen. You really have to embrace this transformation. Virgo is a sign that is about, it's very detail oriented. It is very practical. It can also be quite critical, and Virgo wants to look at what's wrong in order to fix it, okay? Doctors often have a lot of Virgo in their chart because that's exactly what they're supposed to do. You don't go to a doctor to be told what you're doing right. You go to the doctor to be told what you're doing wrong, what's wrong with your body, what needs to be fixed, okay? So, but Virgo in the 7th house, if it's an unhealthy Virgo energy, can represent a relationship or a marriage in which there's a heavy focus on the negative. There's a heavy focus on constantly like, well, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be adjusted. Not enough like appreciation, compliments, romance, just constantly trying to fix this and fix that, okay? So Pluto's really wanting to come in and transform this for you. Kind of kill off some certain habits or certain perspectives, certain ways of communicating or looking at things that will help your one-on-one relationships really go to the next level. So we'll see as we get into more of the cards. Let's look at the tarot. Okay, we have stage 5 of mentality, and it is upright. And then from the interactive, which this glass table makes it very hard for me to pick up the cards. Okay, got it. Okay, look at this. This is such like Virgo energy. So we've got the scientist, and he's kind of looking at the formulas, maybe trying to fix things. Like he's thinking very logically, right? He's not an emotional person, probably. He's looking at the data, right? The logic. And stage 5 of mentality is all about logic too. It's upright. Let's see what this says. A psychological or mental pattern of failure, relapse, a tendency to recommit or reoffend, making the same mistake over and over again. Unable to stop making the same mistakes, doing the same thing over and over again while expecting different results, not learning from the past, fighting with someone. Everything has to be a win-lose situation or a good guy versus bad guy situation. This card represents Venus, the planet of relationships, in Aquarius in the 3rd house. Yeah, this reading's really, really heavy about the growth in your relationships. Kind of redoing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different, getting the same results, but also at the same time kind of looking at things from a win-lose situation. And in the 7th house, that's the house of relationships. It's the house of compromise. It's the house of harmony, of finding balance. In order to do that, you can't look at situations from a win-lose perspective, from a who's going to be the winner, who's going to be the loser. That doesn't foster growth in relationships. There has to be, you have to let down that wall of pride. You have to be willing to compromise. You have to come into conversations, disagreements from a place of really wanting to understand the other person, not trying to prove how terrible that person is and how you did nothing wrong. Otherwise, you just kind of go around in circles. So yeah, there's something here I see in that scientific card. It's like you really are like contemplating this, which I think is great. Like I see that you're really kind of like trying to look at the data, figure out where things are going wrong. That's where this Virgo energy is going to help you. Where is it that I'm going wrong? Where is it, like, what is it that I'm doing that's not helping foster growth in my relationships, and how can I change it? That's a healthy Virgo. Okay, sorry, my camera like filled up with space and completely died, so I had to go charge it, clear it off, but I'm back for the reading. Okay, so we were talking about this stage 5 of mentality card and this scientist energy, and I was saying that this Virgo that came up in the die, this is where this energy will be useful for you. So utilizing it more in an inward way to gain a clear perspective on analyzing and figuring out what you're doing wrong, what is going wrong, how you're handling things may be wrong, and fixing things from there. Whereas I feel like before, it was more focused on pointing out what others were doing wrong or what was wrong in your environment, kind of almost using that as either an excuse for why growth wasn't happening for you, like, well, look at my environment, look at what's going on in my outside world, of course I can't grow, or honing in on maybe how other people were doing you wrong, well, let's talk about what you did this and it bothered me, and kind of, yeah, having a more extroverted energy when it comes to this sign of Virgo. And now you're kind of going more within and saying, okay, well, yeah, I can't help my environment. I can't help what other people do, but you know what? I can help how I react to what other people do. I can help what I allow other people to do. I can help how I operate within my environment, as chaotic and peaceful as it is. That's where I have the control, is on me. So why don't I look within and go towards myself? And I also see you at this time being less prideful or less triggered when it comes to what other people are coming to you about. Like if someone else comes to you and says, I didn't like that you did this. I see you being more willing and able to compromise, I guess. Like even if you think that person is in the wrong, maybe they did do something to you, you're still being willing and open to hear them out, because maybe it's a situation where each of you has been a little off. Each of you has done something a little bit wrong. So it's almost like you're not going to feel, because you're not looking at it from a win-lose perspective anymore, like someone needs to be the winner, someone needs to be the loser. You are not getting as triggered. You're more easily able to say, okay, I see your perspective. Yeah, I probably could have handled it differently, done it a little bit differently. Okay, I'm going to work on that, or I'm going to apologize for that. But I also want to talk to you about what you said or the way that you spoke to me that hurt me. Okay, so like being a little more calm. Virgo is a calm energy. It's an earth sign. It's not real emotional. It's very practical and very logical. So I see you using this Virgo energy to your advantage, meaning that you're not going to get triggered, passionate, fired up so much when maybe things happen in your outside environment, when people react to you a certain way. Instead, you're going to take their reaction, soak it in, use that data, and do something with it, whether it be, you know what, I think I need to set some boundaries with this person. Or, maybe some of what they're saying is right. Okay, I could probably improve in that area. Or, next time that I need something, I'm not going to this person. That probably won't be useful. See what I mean? Kind of using it in a more, you're working with your environment, right? Growth. How does a plant grow? How do we make a garden? We can't just plant any kind of plant in any sort of environment, right? Or any time of the year. When you buy like certain plants or vegetables, you read about what sort of soil they need, what sort of climate they need, what time of the year they need to be planted, because you can't just force it to grow wherever you want it to and whenever you want it to. You have to look at your environment and figure out a way to work with it. You know, if you live in a desert-like environment, there's certain plants that you're not going to be able to plant there. And it can put you in a real negative spiral if you keep focused on those plants that you want to grow that you simply can't. It's more beneficial, it's more Virgo-like for you to be like, okay, this is my environment that I'm in, this desert environment. Let me find out what sort of plants actually can grow here. Or maybe, getting real scientific, maybe there's something I could build, some sort of building, that could create an artificial environment, that's not like so much like the desert, that would allow me to grow. Okay, that would be to grow the plants that I want. That would be a very Virgo scientific approach, versus what I feel like you've been doing for quite some time is continuing to buy, like, I don't know, a tomato plant and plant it in your desert soil, just trying to force it to happen. And it's not going to grow. Either that, or just you want the tomato plant so bad, but you've tried so many times you can't get it to work that you've just given up, and you're like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to grow anything. So one of those two options. Now you're figuring out how to work with your environment, what you can do to combine with your environment, with the others around you, to foster the growth that you want, to get the results that you are after. So this is a really, really fantastic energy for you. You are completely transforming how you operate in your 7th house of relationships, of your environment. And it's going to allow you to kind of blossom and bloom this amazing garden, this amazing feeling of abundance, where it's like, ah, now I get it. It's so simple. I've got to plant this at fall time, not at springtime, or whatever. It's like you're doing what you can to adjust in the proper way to your environment to get what it is you are after. Okay, let's look at the rest of the tarot cards here. All right, we have the Three of Swords, Eight of Cups, wow, and the World. So the World card is the final card in the major arcana. Each card in the major arcana represents a spiritual stepping stone in our life. This is the final one. It's like ultimate completion. Like, wow, you did it. And I always compare it to like passing that level in a video game. And I don't even play video games, but I remember playing some with my brother when I was little. And there'd be like a certain phase on a particular level that we would, I'd be trying over and over to get it. And if I could just pass that, do that one thing, whether it was jump over some sort of cliff or who knows, I just had to hit the buttons just right. And if I could figure that out, then I would get to the next level. And it would take so much time. Sometimes we would be stuck on the same level for weeks. And then one day something would happen and we'd figure out just the right way to hit the buttons to make that long jump and go through that portal to the next level. And then it was weird because it was like never again when we were on that level did we get stuck like we did before. It was almost like, I don't know, it's almost like it records it into your memory. And so like the next time we play the video game and start at level 1, we'd get to that level and we wouldn't get hung up there. We'd get right through it. We knew exactly how to jump to get over. So that's when you've really surpassed that level and you're not going to ever have that same issue with it again as you did before. You felt stuck for a long time and all of a sudden something clicks. That's what the World card represents for me a lot of the time. It's like, okay, you are graduating to a new level and you're never again going to feel caught in this cycle. It's not that the issues will never come up, but it's almost like when you are confronted with it, you understand how to deal with it. You don't have to ponder it very long. You don't have to think about it too long. It becomes this natural sort of healthy response that you have. And so that's what I see that you are headed towards. Some of you could be adding college into your environment in the coming months or years, getting a new degree, getting a new certification. I do feel that for most of you that chose this pile, there will be, after you kind of get over this relationship hump, there will be some sort of new project. It's almost like you're going to feel so free, so lightweight after mastering this level that it's going to open up like a whole other realm of time for you. You're going to all of a sudden feel like you have the time, you have the energy to chase after the things, the creative projects that you really want to chase after. And I see you doing that, whether it be I want to start this new business or this YouTube channel, I want to study this in college, get this certificate. Something is going, it's going to finally feel like you have the time and the energy to do it. But look at this. Both of these cards are about relationships. The Three of Swords as well as the Eight of Cups. Cups represent emotions and relationships in the tarot deck. Swords, which are in this card, represent more of like the thought processes, communication, the mental aspect of relationships when it comes to this card. So there's definitely been, the heart to me feels tight, okay? You feel heartbroken over something. If not heartbroken, then just immensely frustrated, like your heart feels constricted. It's really hard without a healthy heart chakra, which is kind of what this represents to me. It's really hard to tap into that feeling of unconditional love for yourself and for others because the heart's cut off, it's blocked, it's restricted. So even if you aren't dealing with heartache and it's just more, it could be more of just this frustration with the relationships that you have, just being sick and tired of dealing with certain people and really not like feeling triggered, irritated, upset, maybe at the drop of a hat with certain things, or in the very least, just feeling weak and overwhelmed, having a hard time tapping into that wellspring of love. It's almost like everything in the environment is colored with this this gray, you're not seeing the colors, you're not feeling the laughter and the joy when you're with others. And it could be one relationship in particular only that's having this effect on your relationship with everyone else, maybe with your kids, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews, your siblings, your co-workers, all because of this frustration in one relationship. It's like bleeding out and coloring all the others. And I see you feeling drained, and I see that you feel kind of like, oh, why can't I just enjoy my relationships? Why can't I feel that joy and that unconditional love? Why am I constantly feeling it's almost like a constant feeling of like PMS, you know, for us, those of you who are women that experience that time of the month. Some of us have it worse than others, but when we are PMSing, it kind of does feel like this. We can get irritated really easily, and we just want, you know, everyone and everything to just go away. You know, we're not really we're having a hard time kind of enjoying our environment. Kind of almost feels like that. Okay, so I see that you are experiencing that at this time, but the solution here is in this Eight of Cups card. And this is a man who's finally, or it could be a woman, finally decided to walk away from something in his life that he worked really hard on, which is represented by these cups. It could be a relationship, but it got to a point where it was no longer fulfilling for him, or where he realized that there was really no repairing the damage that had been done. You know, just as kind of an example, the cups maybe are old, they are cracked, they are leaking, they no longer hold water. When he tries to pick up the cup to drink from it, the water has already spilled out. And he knows that if he stays next to these cups and doesn't budge, doesn't move, he will become dehydrated and he will die. So even though it's so hard because he's so emotionally attached to these cups in some sense, like he knows how much time, work, effort went into it. There may be part of him that believed for a long time, no, I can fix them, I can fix them, I can fix them. And finally, one day he realizes it's like the denial leaves and he's like, no, I can't fix these cups. They're too far gone. I've got to walk away. I'm going to have to build new cups, find new cups. I've got to hydrate myself. I can't keep sticking by these anymore. And that's what you're going to do in regards to your relationships, your life, like creating a life that's fulfilling for you and that fosters growth. This card, before this man walked away, this is the opposite of growth. This is stagnation. These cups are old. They can't serve him anymore. They can't be repaired. They're beyond repair. And just sticking by these, regardless, that's the definition of stagnant, no movement. But finally, he leaves. He walks away. So yeah, there could be a few creative projects, relationships in general that you decide to walk away from, or it could even just represent the tactics that you've used in your relationships for a long time that you've realized don't serve you. Whether it's an inability to set boundaries with others, maybe that's one of the cups. It just doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe it is the way that you speak and communicate, your style of communication. Maybe you're realizing that it's causing you more problems than it is helping anything. Okay, but I see you kind of analyzing all of this and getting to this level of success that you were after. I mean, this is such freedom here. This woman's literally floating in the sky. She's not even restricted by her clothing. You know, she truly feels free. She's proud of herself. She's proud of her achievements and ready to celebrate that. And now feeling like, wow, I'm capable of overcoming anything. So what do I want to do next? It's almost like the world is my oyster. If I can overcome that, I can definitely, you know, graduate with my master's degree. I can definitely move to a new exotic country. Like there's a lot of things that actually, because you've been stuck in certain aspects of life, unable to grow, it's given you this sense of insecurity, this belief that you really aren't capable of accomplishing much. Okay, and so even though you have these certain dreams and certain goals, you don't really ever go after them because there's something in you that's like, I can't do that. If I can't even get over this hump, figure this out, this relationship or this particular issue, how the hell am I going to be able to start that business? Okay, but after you finally walk away from these certain habits and tendencies, analyze these things that we've been talking about, you're going to feel this huge boost of confidence. You're going to feel like a very capable person. You're going to feel very inspired. Okay, let's look at some of the other cards here. Let's look at the Mona Lisa card. So we have a living in society card and a healthy relationships card. And you know, if you've watched my channel before, but this side is going to talk about a subconscious phrase that's negative, that's holding you back. And then the upright is what spirit wants you to replace it with. So let's look at the living in society card. It says, my voice can't be heard. What I have to offer doesn't matter. Wow. And then the healthy relationships card says, I'm right and they're usually wrong. Interesting. Yeah, I could see this creating tension and frustration in your relationships because on one end of the spectrum, you feel that you are typically the one in the right and that everyone else is typically in the wrong. Again, kind of looking at it from a win-lose. When most relationships most arguments, disagreements, things are very nuanced, and there's typically something you can understand in the other person and something they can understand in you. Okay, so, but it seems like subconsciously there is this belief that no, I'm right, and they're the ones that are usually wrong, okay? But at the same time, you also have this subconscious belief that your voice can't be heard and what you have to offer doesn't matter. So what happens is it creates this boiling effect, okay? So you feel that you're in the right. You don't want to try and reach a level of understanding with them, or maybe you pretend to try and keep the peace, but inside you're like, no, they're completely wrong, okay? So there's this anger, this frustration, this tension boiling inside, but you don't feel like you have the right to express it. You don't feel like you can get your point of view across, okay? You don't feel like what you have to say matters at all to other people. So it's just another reason to keep it in. And then it starts boiling, and then maybe you take a more passive-aggressive approach in your relationship. Say what you need to keep the peace, but then behind the scenes you're doing and saying other things. Saying what you need to keep the peace until one day all of your anger and frustration that's been building up over the past several weeks or months explodes onto this person. You get it all out, or maybe you write it all out, and then this person's like, what? You didn't tell me you were feeling this way, and so it causes more issues. Let's read what Spirit wants you to replace these with. Okay, the first one says, by being objective and having clarity, I know that true wisdom always transcends one person being right and the other one being wrong. Wow, does that match up with that first tarot card? I know that true wisdom is always about much more than one person being right and the other being wrong. That is absolutely true. Even in situations where, there's always a level of understanding we can have with someone. I think that's what we have to seek. Even in the worst of situations where someone has clearly done something wrong. Let's use this as an example. Where someone is clearly in the wrong. You can always, if you want to, try and understand their motives, their intentions, what sort of pain or trauma led them to have that sort of reaction or response that was wrong. And usually if we reach out to someone from that perspective, like, hey, I don't agree with what you did. I will not accept it. You cannot do this again. I'll forgive, but I won't forget. But you know what? I understand what was going through your head, or I understand that you had this particular upbringing. I understand that at the root of this, what you're searching for is a feeling of control. Because you feel so out of control, like looking at your relationships, especially your intimate ones, from a more psychological perspective. That doesn't mean accepting the behavior. It is important to let them know what they did wrong, but trying to be more understanding. And again, that is in a situation where someone is clearly absolutely in the wrong, which doesn't happen often unless it's something that's like going to court, like abuse, murder, things like that. In most of our day-to-day life relationships, it always comes down to us kind of doing something a little bit wrong and that person too. Even if it starts with that person being in the wrong, maybe your reaction afterwards was a little bit off. Maybe they did that because, who knows? But it's important to try and ingrain this in your mind that in most situations in relationships, you're going to be in the wrong a little bit too. And if you start from that perspective, it's going to help foster growth, or it's at least going to help you get your point across. We can't control how the other person feels or reacts. Even if you come from an understanding heart, really wanting to connect with this person and mend things, it doesn't guarantee that they will. But at least you can walk away from that interaction knowing that you got your point across. You reacted to them with love, with understanding, while also setting the boundaries that you needed to set. You didn't further cut them down. You weren't finger pointing. You weren't saying things that could be hurtful to them, that could make the relationship worse than what it currently is. Like you had that sense of understanding. Okay, the other card says, my unique voice is an authentic part of the life force that needs to be expressed. Yeah, you've got to stop repressing your voice, especially the voice of your higher self, okay? This isn't talking about the voice that wants to attack, that wants to belittle people, that wants to make people feel dumb, that wants to just tell people you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. This is about the voice of the higher self, the wisdom within our soul, that does want to say something, that does want to speak, that does want to open up and say, when you did that, it really made me feel like this, or you're making me feel like you don't care about my schedule or my life or my feelings. That's the voice of the higher self coming through. That's the voice that can actually bring about a solution, a sense of understanding. Okay, and so those are kind of the things you're going to be focused on and investigating over the next few months, and you will reach success. Okay, this is going to be one of the houses in your natal chart that is going to be, I don't know, the one that you are known for, the one that people say, yeah, if you have any questions about relationship stuff, go and talk to so and so because they give the best advice. Okay, this is the house where you're going to be kind of an expert in. In fact, some of you may have Saturn in your 7th house, and Saturn in our chart, wherever it sits, kind of represents the part of our chart where we are supposed to really achieve and be known as an expert in that area of our life. So for you, it is this 7th house. Okay, let's look at the last few cards. We have Contemplate Death and Beyond, Deceit. We have the Deceit card, and Surrender to Non-Action. I'm really glad this card came up because it kind of emphasizes what I was saying at the beginning. This is a time for you to use that Virgo energy within, to start contemplating and taking a look what you're doing wrong, okay? How you're handling things wrong. Are you setting the proper boundaries? Are you communicating effectively in a way that doesn't cause further confusion or misunderstanding? Are you holding back how you actually feel about something too long till you get to a point where you just kind of explode or want to run away and escape or give up? Okay, are you not tending to what needs to be tended to at the moment when it comes up? Okay, are you pushing things under the rug, procrastinating until you just collapse and can't handle it anymore? So this is a time to go within and start analyzing those things and putting them into practice as well. But right now, for the next few months, don't stress about putting it into practice. I feel like that would cause you a bit of anxiety because you don't quite know how to do that yet. If you can at least focus on analyzing it, journaling it, thinking about it, talking about it, surrendering to non-action, not feeling like you need to fix this person or that person or fix this, that, or the other right now. Right now, just kind of be still and go within. Let me read this card. It says, now is the time to be still and not act. Simply breathe and focus on your own power. Let others come to you, okay? So this is about getting back to your place of power, going within, focusing on yourself, putting love into yourself, thinking about what sort of solutions in the past may have been better options for you. So going back in the past, thinking about some of the arguments, the disagreements, the relationships that hurt you. And instead of looking at it through the perspective of, I can't believe that person did that to me, that hurt so much, and going into that grieving process, now looking back with a scientific mind and thinking, where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently when this situation happened? How could I have operated from a place of power in that instance, from a place of wisdom? If I could do it all over again, what would I have done differently? Focusing on what I would have done differently is going to be really beneficial for you. Okay. Now, the Contemplate Death and Beyond, well, let's talk about the Deceit card. I feel this Deceit card is talking about what these cards spoke of. That inside, you're feeling a lot of the times that you are in the right, that they are in the wrong, but you're also feeling like you can't express that. So you take this sort of passive-aggressive approach sometimes in your relationships where the other person thinks that everything's fine. They think you're fine. When really you're lying. There's deceit. That's exactly what deceit is. But I know that you look at it from, I'm just trying to keep the peace. Like, I'm just trying to keep them happy. And while that's true, I see that in your intentions. That is a form of deceit. That is a situation in which when you do finally open up to this person and say, hey, I've been sick of this. You've been treating me this way. I don't like that. And you haven't. Their first reaction is going to be, well, that's not my problem. You should have said that from the beginning, right? That's going to be their first reaction, is their focus on the deceit, the lies. Why did you lie to me then, right? And then it becomes very unproductive. Whereas in the moment, as soon as something happens that you don't agree with, if you bring it up and you address it, or you say no when you need to, you don't agree to things that you don't want to do, that person may walk away being like, well, you're selfish, you're not helpful. You know, they may not be happy that you didn't agree to do it, but fine, whatever. That's going to blow over much quicker. They're going to get over that much quicker. And they're going to start learning that you're a type of person who can't be everything and do everything from them. And your relationship in the future with that person is going to be a lot more productive, a lot healthier than if you continue going this more passive-aggressive route of just so desperately wanting people to be happy with you or to be happy and keep the peace that you do kind of lie. You do pretend that things are more fine than they actually are. And so then it's like a lot of cleanup once it finally comes to a head, and a lot of kind of distrust, issues with not being able to trust that happen, even though I see that you have the best of intentions. Contemplate death and beyond. This makes me think of the Saturn card that came up. The World card is all about Saturn energy. Saturn is here to help us leave a legacy. It wants to push us to be disciplined, to grow, to be committed, to be determined, to grit down and do what we need to do, no matter if it feels uncomfortable, awkward, no matter if we feel foolish or ill-equipped to deal with it. We do the difficult thing. We do what we need to do. And Saturn helps us build a legacy. And I always summarize a legacy as, when people die, when you die, okay, what are people going to bring up at your funeral? What's going to be the common theme that people speak and say about you? That is your legacy, because that's what's living on in people's minds about you long after you're gone. Other people have legacies that are even more Saturn, where something's actually been built or created in the outside world that people can use after you've gone. Okay, but that's all with Saturn's help. And so Saturn is here to help you kind of, I don't know, I feel like you've awakened to some things through your relationships because of this feeling of contemplation with what comes beyond me. Okay, so where you're thinking more about not just how these things in your life affect you, but how they also indirectly affect other people. What are you teaching the people below you, whether that be, your children, for example? What are they watching from your interaction? If they see, for example, a mom who holds things in, doesn't speak what needs to be said in the moment, doesn't set boundaries, feels that their voice doesn't matter, even though they do feel they're right most of the time. If your daughter watches that, let's say, a mom has a daughter that's watching this, that's what she's going to learn. And then she's going to potentially grow up and repeat that same habit, because that's downloaded in her subconscious, that this is how you handle this. This is what you do. So I feel like you are contemplating death and beyond in the sense of, what am I teaching the people below me by not dealing with this, by not overcoming this? Am I instilling some sort of karmic cycle in the people who look up to me without even meaning to? Like, these are things that I want to handle now, make a part of my legacy, overcoming this, becoming an expert in this, feeling empowered in this area of my life, so that the people below me in my life can look up to that as an example. Maybe it will help heal, future generations, in a sense, in my family or otherwise. So I see you I think that's been the key for you. Stepping back and realizing that a problem that you have isn't really ever just a problem that you have. It affects the people around you too. And that seems to be the catalyst for you, the motivator for you. When you were just looking at it as a you problem, it was really hard to get motivated, because you thought, well, I can deal with being frustrated with this. I can deal with blah, blah, blah. Now that you're kind of taking it in and being like, okay, but this actually affects other people. Now you're feeling motivated and like, okay, I'm going to grit down. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to figure this out. I want growth in my life. I want to inspire others with my own growth, whether it be my kids, my siblings, my spouse, my own parents. Like, I want to set an example for growth. I want to help lead others to it. So I've got to start with me. Okay, let's pull out a few words from my blue bowl and see what else Spirit has to say. Oh, we've got 4. Okay, we have imaginative, perceptive, outspoken, and emotional. Okay, imaginative, perceptive, outspoken, and emotional. Growth, I kind of associate it with creativity in a way. Creation, when we grow, we create. But that seed of growth starts with the imagination first. Imagining what it is you want to do, and then taking the first steps, planting those seeds. But it starts with that imaginative process. So Spirit's wanting you to step into your imagination a bit, maybe get like a journal, a manifestation journal, and start kind of imagining where you want to be in 1, 2 years, 5 years, or what it is you want people, imagining your funeral. What is it that people will say? What do I want them to say? Ideally, start stepping into your imagination, and because that's going to really connect you. It's going to help motivate you towards what it is that you want. So get imaginative. Perceptive is kind of, you need a good perception in order to really understand another person. You have to be very, very perceptive with their motivations, their intentions for why they're doing what they're doing. that really helps you get to a place of understanding. So it's important to start getting more perceptive with yourself and with others, and really being able to look beneath the surface. What's really going on? Why are they really doing this? Are they really out to get me, or is there something else going on here? Are they actually suffering inside, and that's what's leading them to react this way? Try and, perceive these things more. But we also have outspoken and emotional. Outspoken, this is talking about saying things when they need to be said. Don't agree to something you don't want to do. Be outspoken in that moment and say, no, I can't, or I just don't want to. Sorry, I don't want to help. Be outspoken with it. Don't allow yourself to play this role of people pleaser, okay, and agree to things that you don't actually want to do, because then that just leaves you feeling resentful the whole time that you're dealing with something you don't want to be, doing something that deep down you don't want, and it just snowballs other issues. And then we have the emotional sign, which is funny because a Virgo is really not an emotional sign, and it did come up for you in the die. But I do think it's important to, at this time, we do have 8 of Cups, that's all about the emotions, to tap into your emotions. I think that's also because there seems to be kind of a disconnect between your feelings and your logic, or it seems like logic always overrides the emotion. So like, even if you don't feel like you want to do it, don't feel like you want to maybe agree to something or carry on a relationship, for example, that's unfulfilling, your tendency is kind of to ignore the feelings, or you think you can ignore the feelings, I should put it that way. You think you can ignore them and just rely fully on the logic. So you have a lot of emotions that aren't dealt with, or you end up in a life that doesn't feel fulfilled, because fulfillment is all about feeling emotionally well and emotionally connected to your life. Okay, so if you ignore the emotions, you will end up in a life that's unfulfilling because it's not connected to you emotionally. So this is a time to get really in tune with your emotions and to follow the emotions to what feels good and what doesn't, creating a life that feels good, that doesn't feel anxious, that doesn't feel resentful, that doesn't feel angry, that doesn't feel hurt, okay, that feels creative, that fosters growth, that doesn't feel stagnant, okay? You've got to tap into those emotions, and they will help lead you to where you need to go. But yeah, big achievement coming up your way pretty soon if you surrender to it. If you truly go within over the next few months, it's going to provide you a lot of healing. You're thinking about your legacy right now. Okay, you're thinking about how you can grow, how you can advance, how you can become better today than you were yesterday. That's amazing. There's a lot of people who don't give a crap about that, who don't mind just being the exact same person for the rest of their life. But you don't want that. You want success. Success for you is about this inner growth. I want to be better. I want to improve. I want my relationships to be better. I want my life to improve. And by focusing on you and not using your environment or other people as an excuse or a factor, trying to work with it, not against it, you're going to grow a lot in your life over the next few months. And I'm really excited for you. Comment below and let me know especially if you're one of those that's thinking about college or something. I would love to know what sort of degree my followers are interested in, if we're like-minded in any way. But I look forward to seeing you guys in next week's reading, and I do want to thank you so much for coming, for being so open and receptive, allowing us to really connect. Okay, I thoroughly enjoyed this reading. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.